צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. כשעסקנו בתפילה, חציתם את התעלה, כשעליתם שוב בהר, לא חשבתם על מחר. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. אין מנוס ואין מפלט, אין לכם פשוט ברירה, אין תקווה ואין מקלט, אין כבר דרך חזרה. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. ברמה ובמדבר, באמצע יום הכיפורים, באתם בתרועת שופר, אך יצאתם בשברים. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם. זה יום הדין, זה יום הדין, אללה לא עוזר לכם, צהל שוב מכה בכם.
Were you surprised to see Syrian tanks so close to your unit?
Well, no, that was a surprise because they surprised us because we were not ready for the fight, but because it was a holiday for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't make a surprise like they did today.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить. Хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар? Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ. Тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар. Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Байрактар.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 632 of the news, and it's good to see you all once again. And today, Russia is feeling the pain yet again.
And of course, Russia is feeling a lot of pain today as they have practically lost the initiative on an entire front. And therefore, the ball is moving directly into Ukraine's park now. Of course, as usual. But we're going to be getting into all of that tonight, covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. And not only that, we are also going to be covering the entire bit of news that we were able to get from the Middle East, which is once again starting to take off again. We'll be getting into that later on in the night. We'll, of course, be covering Ukraine first. But tonight's news is big news. And I like to see it. We love to see it. We'll kind of be working our way into it because it's in the Avdiivka area, and it does appear that Russian forces have completely lost cohesion in the area and may have even lost the initiative entirely and may not be able to recover it over these next few days. But I want to make sure that we cover some of the bigger news in Russia, well, not bigger news, but big news in Russia first, and then move our way back into Ukraine and into the Avdiivka battlefield. We have seen something a little wild recently, and this isn't just something that expands to Finland, but this is starting to become an entire border-wide situation with the Russian Federation, that countries are starting to close their borders almost entirely to any kind of movement into or out of Russia. Finland has been one of the massive moving figures in the past few days doing something along these lines, as the Kyiv Independent published a news article today talking about the Russian response to the Finns closing the border yesterday. In case if y'all didn't, our stream has flatlined immediately. Wow, look at that.
Oh, they were good.
You think? Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure we're good. I'm feeling pretty good over here.
Oh man. All right, so getting back into the news. Sorry about that interruption if y'all are having an interruption, but Finland closed their border almost entirely yesterday and only left 2 border checkpoints open on a 900-mile-long border. The Russians have made a statement today saying that closing the border crossings and heavily restricting them is a big mistake, apparently, according to them. We've also seen that the Kremlin accused Finland of taking the path of destroying bilateral relations over Finland's decision to close some border crossings with Russia. That was reported by TASS, which is one of the larger Russian news agencies. Not only that, but we also saw tank traps being set up at border points in the areas of Estonia and Latvia today as well, showing that this may start to roll over not just from Finland, but into the Baltic states as well, and the borders may entirely be closed by the end of the next few weeks. This is a serious development and showing that diplomatic relations behind the scenes are once again beginning to completely collapse in between the Russian border countries and Russia itself, as we can see that Finland and the Baltic states appear to be taking some of the hardest line stances against the Russian Federation that we've seen over the entire course of the war. Moving on into the next bit of news, this one was a little bizarre, and this is just kind of showing the insanity of the Russian political system at this point. We have heard that a Duma member came out today and made a very interesting statement. Some of y'all may know this, but Russian prisons are not really a great place, and both men and women, funnily enough, can end up in a Russian prison. Usually, most people just say that that's the entire nation of the Russian Federation, but for the Russians themselves, there is a fate worse than living in Russia alone. That's going to prison. One of the Duma members, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this today, one of the Duma members decided that it would be a smart idea to offer, as an option to female prisoners, if they were to bear a child, pretty much, I don't even really know how to explain this in good PG-rated terms, but if they have a kid, they'll be released from prison. I don't know how that's going to work, and I don't know how far that's going to make it through the Duma, but this was reported by Nexta today, and we actually had a name behind the guy, and this guy is Valery Seleznyov. This is him right here. I've never heard such a crazy idea or a crazy concept being pushed like a real thing, but this guy actually said this straight face today in the Russian Duma. Don't really know how that's going to go, but it's largely in response to the high mortality rates, a large amount of Russians dying, and the incredibly low birth rate in the Russian Federation that has been leading the Russian nation, as well as Ukraine and many other former Soviet countries, to have a declining population since about 1990. This is something that they haven't really been able to fix. Both Ukraine and Russia are currently facing this issue, and nobody really knows how to go about it. We've seen that Japan has also had a very similar issue to this as well, with declining birth rates, and their solution has been to try and heavily encourage private citizens to have children, mostly through economic means. China is also starting to have this problem as well due to the one-child policy, greatly skewing the demographics where there's a majority male population and very few females. Because of that, the population has been rapidly declining inside of the People's Republic of China as well. But Russia's and most former Soviet countries' problems actually go back to 80 years ago, to the Second World War. The Second World War was so devastating to the male population of the Soviet Union and all of the former Soviet republics in the modern day that there are just not enough families or couples out there to be able to have enough children to replace themselves when they're gone. And this has been leading to a deteriorating population size, and this is why the war in Ukraine has a lot more of a devastating impact than a lot of people inside of Russia would like to believe. A lot of these able-bodied men, nearly 310,000 of them, have now died, and those men will no longer be able to raise a family. Most of them, from what we understand, are around the ages of 18 to 27, which are right within the range where they would need them to start raising a family. That, of course, will not be happening at this point, and we see that the Russian Duma member is trying to come up with a way to skirt around this issue, although there really won't be a way to do that. Moving on from Moscow and that insane news, the news gets crazier the further south we get. We got to see today that Kadyrov is trying to promote his son in some kind of a way, probably to try and overtake his stead of Chechnya, but I'm just going to show you the clip because it was really weird, and it's kind of lame. But here's the clip. So here it is. They got some
Oh
inspirational
man,
music.
I was debating showing this video in the short war summary today, but I didn't do it because it was so cringe. But let's see it.
Man, it's bad.
Oh yes, Don. He knows how to shoot a gun at close range, bliat.
Man, right now, what he's thinking is, man, they can eat some of those targets, Don. I'm very hungry. it's. And now he runs over to the next table. Wait a minute. Is that a Glock?
I really can't tell.
Kind of looks like one.
If it is a Glock, it's got a modified barrel in it.
That's true, but it looks a lot like a Glock.
Oh yes, that's a ham and cheddar sandwich I can eat.
Okay.
Now wait a minute. Did you get the video of Kadyrov shooting the gun? He actually shot it too at one point.
No, I didn't. I didn't get that clip.
It's on Twitter on our main profile page. He was struggling to handle the recoil of an AK-72 and also a massive machine gun he could barely hold up. Like, you got to see it.
An AK-74?
I don't know what you call it, to be honest with you, but it's like one of those AK guns.
Okay, so here we have it. By the way, peep the Twitter, link in the description below. But let's take a look at Kadyrov shooting a AK-74, it appears. This is an ugly AK-74. Like, the mods on this do not make it look any better. Same music.
Look at Don. Wait a minute, stop the video for a second. Did you notice that they showed him shooting the gun, and then they cut to a whole other frame of the targets actually being hit? I don't think he even hit the target. I think it's faked.
You know what? You got a good point. Also, what the hell is this stance? Like, he's like leaning back. Look at that. He's not leaning into the recoil. He's like leaning backwards.
Yeah, he's not even got a stance going. Everybody's standing around him like waiting for him to screw up to help him out.
Oh my god. Dude, this is terrible.
It gets better. It gets better. He's got a big machine gun.
For war, preparing for war, isn't it a little late? Like 2 years too late? Wasn't he in the war at the beginning? What's he talking about? He's already what an idiot. It's just the beginning. The best part's ahead, he says.
Oh, here he goes.
Oh my lord, what a clown. Look
Man,
at
look
him,
at him,
dude.
He's struggling.
Look at him. He can't even
His
hold
face
it.
is red.
Look at his head shake.
Look at him. The barrel's slowly getting lower and lower as he keeps shooting it.
Oh, and here goes the kid now. Wait a minute. Hell, hold up, wait a minute. Is that an AR platform?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is.
Wow, wait, oh, wow, they're so ready for war. I guess when the war starts, for them, in their minds, they're just gonna have an unlimited access to Western equipment. Oh, come on. Lame. And I gotta tell y'all, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen people do these kinds of little courses a lot quicker than both of these folks were able to do. If this is supposed to be impressive, this is like average. I could do this. So he puts the AR down because we all know that that's the epitome of Russianism. And then we can see him whip out the Glock again, but oh my lord. This is sad. I don't even really know where to go with Biggie Boy here firing the machine gun. I mean, look at this. This is sad.
Man, look how tight he's gripping that foregrip. Look at his hand. It's so red and it's turning white because he's gripping it with all of his force.
Dude, and look at the damn balloon he's using for the trigger back here. His hand is so bloated that if he slapped you, it'd sound like a water balloon. Like
that dude is so red. It is hilarious how red that guy's face is.
Dude, he was winded just holding this thing. And they also got the EO tech up there, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Ugh. Anyways, we're gonna end this here. This is all we can show of this. This is nearly criminal to show y'all this kind of lame bullcrap. But we have to show it to y'all because this is what Kadyrov and his boy is doing down there, and it's sad. It's very sad, but we're going to be moving on from that because while he's trying to make it look like his kid's going to be the next prodigal son, which I don't think he's going to be at all, we're now going to be moving on over here into the area of West Abkhazia. That sounds like a fantasy country. It sounds like something made up, and it kind of is. It was made up by the Russians after the invasion of Georgia in 2008, and it's unofficial. It's an unofficial country. It's not been recognized by really anyone in the world except for the Russians and a few other handful of countries that are minor ones. But we've heard that the Russians are apparently planning to try and move the Black Sea Fleet from Sevastopol to somewhere else. But of course they had to violate another nation's sovereign territory in the process of that. You see, the plan is to build the naval base in West Abkhazia and then move the Black Sea Fleet there. Of course, that's not recognized by really anyone except for the Russians as being Russian territory. That's considered to be Georgian territory. And this is something a little interesting that many people haven't heard about, and I think this is a little unfair to the Georgians. Much like the Russians annex Crimea and illegally control the Crimean Peninsula, Russia also illegally set up two unofficial countries inside of Georgia, called South Ossetia, which is right here near the Caucasus Mountain Range, and West Abkhazia, that's in the northwestern area of Georgia. Since 2008, nobody's really made a big problem about this, and it kind of does irk me a little bit that no one has, because you would think that someone would talk about, the Russians illegally dicing up Georgia, but no one ever has, and no one really is, and I think that's a little messed up, to be honest with y'all, because it's almost the same situation as Ukraine. But moving on from that, we did get a post today from the Kyiv Independent talking about the Russians' ambitions to try and build this new naval base for the Black Sea Fleet on the west coast of Abkhazia. This is something I don't really know how people are going to react. The Kyiv Independent said that they were thinking it may create a second front where the Russians will then be fighting again in Georgia. Who really knows? I can't really say with certainty because the Russians have controlled South Ossetia and West Abkhazia for quite a while, and we haven't really seen anyone come in and try and change the status quo in that situation, so I don't really think it will create an armed conflict or a second front inside of Georgia, but I certainly do think that this is another clear and blatant move by the Russians to violate another nation's sovereignty, just like they're violating Ukrainian sovereignty every single day this war has been going on. So now, moving on out of the Russian news and on into Ukraine, it's time for us to talk about the initiative that was lost today at Avdiivka. And you know what? Better yet, we need to move to the location unknowns and into the casualty report first to be able to talk about why the Russians have lost the initiative. Over the past few days, many of y'all have seen that Russian losses have skyrocketed in the numbers. 2 days ago, the Russians lost around 800 soldiers. The day after that, they lost around 1,330 soldiers. Most of them, from what we understand, are being killed in the area around Avdiivka. Russian forces have been dedicated to this offensive for a little bit of time, around a month, a little bit longer than that, and have been trying to push around Avdiivka, encircling the town and capturing it intact. Well, you know what intact is by this war standards, which means that the town is completely destroyed. But it appears that the Russians have had a massive issue. And that is that the Ukrainian defenders are very well equipped, very well prepared. They had a decent fallback plan for when the Russian push finally happened, and so the losses have been skyrocketing and staggering. And not only that, have been completely disorienting Russian units before they can ever really get onto the front lines and start to figure out the gist of what's going on. Because of this, over the past few days, Russian forces have been taking such high losses in the area that most units have been losing their frontline cohesion completely, and the communication chains have also been breaking down as well. We don't really know a lot about the logistics and supply line situation, but we are assuming that it is most likely in a somewhat bad or terrible condition. Out of all of that, and going through all that whole statement, today we've seen that Russian losses have remained astronomically high, and here is the casualty report for the past 24 hours, and then we're going to be moving into the battlefield analysis around Avdiivka.
Dang. Man, it's still high again. And look at that, 1,140 troops. That's crazy high. The Bobcats numbers are getting dwarfed by the troop numbers these days.
They are. It's hardly even worth the point to talk about Bobcat skid steers at this point, but another 1,140 troops were wiped out completely over the past 24 hours again. That is, once again, nearly half of a brigade's strength destroyed in 24 hours. It's a whopping number. And not only that, we saw that the armored losses today started to climb as well. We saw that 11 armored personnel carriers had been destroyed, along with 27 main battle tanks, 17 supply trucks, 29 artillery systems, 20 drones, 3 MLRSs, and the 2 special equipment vehicles. But the numbers that we're focusing on today don't have to do with the logistics, although I can never overstate how important the logistics are. It's talking entirely about the frontline losses, the tanks, the armored personnel carriers, and the soldiers. These losses are incredibly high, and from what we understand, around 60 to 70% of Russian losses are currently being sustained around the Avdiivka battlefield, or the general area of Avdiivka. This means that around 600 Russian soldiers to 700 of them were killed at Avdiivka today. Probably around 7 of the armored personnel carriers were destroyed at Avdiivka, and somewhere close to maybe 18 to 17 main battle tanks were also destroyed around the Avdiivka battlefield. These losses are staggeringly high, and this is something that we predicted like clockwork for the past few days. Since we saw the Russians lose 800 soldiers in a single day, and of course most of those were around the Avdiivka battlefield, we made the statement on this channel that Russian losses would probably continue to climb astronomically and stay incredibly high as a front-wide average, because these Russian units would not be able to regain their cohesion. A lot of these units have lost valuable parts of their chain of command or valuable parts of their fighting strength, and each and every day they're being thrown back onto the front lines, worse off than they were the other day, and then taking even higher losses because of that. And that has been proven true for the past few days. Russian forces, from what we can tell on the frontline maps, are also not really making that much progress either. This is what has happened over the past 24 hours. We can see that Russian forces have been able to make just a few dozen meters of gains in most areas of the front line, and it even appears that in the northern area, the Russian push is being repelled by a small Ukrainian counterattack directed towards the direction of Krasnoyarivka. Going off of all of this, it does seem as though the Russians are losing the initiative on the Avdiivka battlefield, and the initiative may now be entirely within the hands of the Ukrainian defenders of the city, which have been able to destroy the Russians' cohesion on the battlefield so thoroughly, they're not really able to affect the offensive anymore. Now this means that there are 2 options for the next day, and these have been about the same options that the Russians have had for the past 3 days. Either they dedicate these units once again to the offensive tomorrow without withdrawing them from the lines, which will lead to astronomical losses once again, and not only that, we'll probably also see that the Russian forces continue to lose a high amount of tanks and armored personnel carriers, and this may also start to affect the supply lines as well, as these supply lines may have to stretch into very perilous parts of the battlefield, and that may increase the losses there. The other thing that the Russians may do is completely stop the offensive and allow for their forces to regroup in this area. In all honesty, that is the most unlikely of our options that we are currently given right now. We're probably not going to see the Russian forces withdraw from the line, because that means that the offensive has lost all of its momentum. And while right now it's got the momentum of a Lada that's on fire, that's flying down the road at about maybe 20 miles an hour, a breakneck speed.
A whole lot of momentum.
It's got a whole lot of momentum. But while we're seeing that, if the Russians stop, the Lada will still probably be on fire, figuratively, and then they won't really be able to get it rolling again. That's probably the Russian command's fear, and that's why we see that these incredibly attrited units continue to just push themselves like in a suicidal charge against these Ukrainian defensive positions, because they're hoping that eventually the Ukrainians will crack, although Russian units have far since cracked, well a while ago, days ago at this point. They're hoping that they'll eventually be able to crack the Ukrainian lines and then continue to move on forward. And that's what we're probably seeing, and those are our 2 options. If I had to give a percentage chance for what tomorrow's going to look like, I would give it around a 60% chance that Russian forces will continue the offensive, throwing these heavily attrited units once again into suicidal charges, or we'll see that this front line comes to a halt tomorrow, at least for the next 24 hours, so that way they can hope to get these units regrouped and then start the offensive again. Those are our options at the moment. And we got a few clips from the area of Avdiivka today, only 3 of them, not a high amount, but still giving us a small little glimpse into what the battlefield situation looks like. And our first one was very promising, showing a Mista S being destroyed by Ukrainian fire. We can see the Mista S right there. And this also says SAU 2S19 Mista S. That's what it says in Cyrillic. I can read Cyrillic, and I do kind of a good job at it. But anyways, we can see the little Mista S right there in the tree line. We can see the Ukrainians getting ready to target it. And we can see an artillery shell land right in front of it on the road. The explosion has already penetrated the paper-thin armor of the turret, and it appears that the Mista S is already up in flames.
Mr. B said, Mr. S, it can't be. It can't be. I can't lose you. And Mr. S said, oh, Bliat, the artillery shell is coming down.
Oh, man. But
man, that was like a perfect. I had to go into acting or something after something like that.
Man, you need to go into comedy, Matthew. I think you would.
Oh yeah.
Great. Open mic night. I mean, dude. You
Perfect, man. Perfect.
We're gonna record a special. We're gonna record an entire special, Matthew. I promise. But
I'll get no respect around here. I'll get no respect.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. I got 4 hours of sleep, and people expect me to put together an entire news segment. Oh man, I'm telling you.
But anyways, moving on from my small mental breakdown, we did get to see that this Mista S was completely wiped out, which is a big deal. The Mista S is one of the farthest shooting and also one of the most advanced SPGs in the Russian armed forces arsenal. Destroying one of these, which is about $3.5 to $4 billion, is a pretty significant loss for the Russian artillerists that were trying to use it, very poorly most likely. But moving on from that and into our next bit of news around the area of Avdiivka, we also got to see a Russian armored personnel carrier get obliterated today. Here's the APC. This one's on its own, which is a little unique for the area. But we see it moving on along. We see a little pitter-patter of what may be a grenade launcher landing around it. And we see the APC racing on down the field towards the tree line, and we all know that this is where the disaster will happen. It's making a left turn into the opening in the tree line, runs over a mine, and the APC is gone.
Well, you should always take a right turn to stay on the right path. If you take a left, you could end up like this.
Man, there's a lot of Russians in that APC. It's like a clown car.
Damn, bless you.
Now, the Russians do be crawling, and it looks like they just got hit by a grenade launcher.
Their day couldn't get any worse. Until they learned they were Russian, then they remembered, oh, it got worse.
And they're still crawling. They love to crawl. And also, that APC has ceased to be, like, within seconds. I'm surprised that a lot of these guys are even crawling. But as y'all all know, the clip then ends, but a disaster for the Russian forces in this part of the front line. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news of that Russian APC just absolutely getting plastered. And we're now going to be moving on into one of our last bits of news in the area of Avdiivka, where we got to see something moving down a foggy road. And this was really something. I gotta say, this was a cool clip. Oh, yeah! And we're gonna be muting that.
Oh, yeah!
Oh, yeah! Dude, that's me when I get more than 5 hours of sleep. Oh, yeah! But anyways, we see the Leopard 2 coming down the road with the headlights on. And I gotta say, those kind of orangish glowing headlights, man, that's an aesthetic right there. We see them riding on by.
Oh, foggy, foggy London. London town. I don't know why I said that, but
I don't even know why either. I was like trying to figure out, like, how do I react to that? I was like, I don't know. It's like, we can see the end of the clip right there. And also, one second, we got to do a fit check, everyone. We got to see some Ukrainian soldiers back here. Okay, so soldier number 1, AK-74. He's got a Bakelite magazine. I got to tell y'all, I'm an absolute sucker for Bakelite magazines. I think they're really cool. But also, look at the gear. Full bulletproof vest. He's got the ammo pouch, and dude, he's got the double stacked one, where you can put 2 magazines on top of each other.
Why does this look like it could be like a rapper's album cover or something? Put the explicit warning at the bottom. It goes hard.
You know what? It kind of does. I'm not going to lie. But let's see the next guy here. He's got an AK-74 as well. He's actually got an East German stock, it almost seems, on it. It's like a brownish color. And I know what East German AKs look like, y'all, I swear. And he's also got the Personal Armor System Ground Troops helmet, the PAS GT design helmet. That's a level 3A helmet. It can stop most pistol rounds and maybe some of your lower powered ammo for rifles. But, you know, you're kind of pushing it at that point. But you can also see he's got a plate carrier. Pretty nice. And then there's a guy in the background. We can't really tell what he has. But this guy here, he's got a really kitted AK-74 with a nice little extendable stock. Pretty nice. And then we can also see a couple of others. This guy's got a nice little winter jacket, some nice boots, a little bulletproof vest. Everyone in this unit, though, has an AK. None of them have an AR platform. And so with that, that's the end of that clip. But I gotta say, that is a pretty nice little loadout for a normal Ukrainian infantry unit, and very nice to see that the Ukrainians have started to move some heavier weaponry like this Leopard 2A6 onto the battlefield. Moving on from that little bit of news, while I hiccup, and hopefully y'all couldn't hear that, we're now going to be moving on from Avdiivka, because I thought I would give y'all some terrible news, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I highly suggest y'all stay around for this, because it does appear that the Ukrainians have had to pull out a stretcher today in the Dnipro area. It was a terrible sight. And of course, it reminds us all of the dangers that Ukrainian soldiers face every single day on the front lines. And hopefully, the reason why they pulled out this stretcher won't be in vain, and we'll be able to see the Ukrainian forces continue to push across the Dnipro River and on to victory, and hopefully to the Armyansk Gap on the Crimean Peninsula. But we got to see a stretcher being whipped out today, and it was a terrible thing. I can't even say it enough. I mean, when I saw this, I said, holy mackerel. It was unbelievable. And you see them bringing forward the stretcher from the river. And my God, something's fishy about this.
Oh, damn, man. What is that, a Chernobyl fish?
Dude, that right there is a fish called Babin! That thing is unbelievable. I've never seen a fish that big that it actually takes up an entire stretcher. Like, I've never put a fish...
Kadyrov.
Oh my God. What kind of fish is this, though? Like, I have no idea.
Kadyrov, right?
Man, I don't know. We see them carting it away. Good Lord.
You remember that Andy Griffith episode where the barber was talking about, yeah, I want to go kill one of those carp. And the person walked in and was like, what are you talking about? And they said, yeah, I've always wanted to kill a carp, those damn carp. And they thought they were talking about a person. Well, there they killed the carp, and here he is.
And I see a lot of people saying it is a carp. So I didn't know carps got this big. I mean, this thing is huge. This thing is the size of a whole person. Like, they're going to be feeding an entire company with this thing.
That's a big fish.
That's a big fish. I've never seen I'm not even kidding. I'm not even exaggerating. Never seen a fish this big. But there they go with it. And I don't even know how they caught it. Like, how did they catch this thing? It's all beyond my comprehension, to be honest with you all. Might be able to tell you all a little bit about the front line, a little bit about what's going on, but I have no idea how you catch a fish this big. This is beyond me. But moving on from this giant fish, which could serve in the Ukrainian Navy as a vessel. This thing could be registered as a boat. We're going to be moving on from that clip and on to our next one in the area, where we also got to see that the Ukrainians were able to destroy a TOS-1 thermobaric missile launcher, or a rocket launcher more so, in the area. We're going to mute the music, but we can see the TOS right there getting hit with the bomblet. And we can see the second one coming down. Second time is the charm, hitting the front glacis of the TOS. And we can now see that the TOS has blown up for sure, but they're continuing to hit it to try and make sure that it's completely destroyed, and there's nothing usable even on the vehicle. And that's the end of the clip, but great to see they were able to destroy another TOS thermobaric missile launcher, rocket launcher more so. But moving on from that and into our last clip in the river area, we also got to see that the Kyiv Independent has published a very insightful statement. This is apparently a compilation of all the losses that the Russians have taken so far. 3,500 soldiers lost around the Dnipro River area. Well, actually, Russian forces have lost almost 3,500 soldiers, including 1,200 killed in the Dnipro area near Kherson, and around 20,000 Ukrainian men have violated martial law and illegally crossed the border, and more. I don't know what the Ukrainian men are doing that's more, but we're not going to look into that any further. We're just going to leave that for what it is. Nevertheless, 100 Russians taken out. Not bad numbers, not bad at all. We currently know that Ukrainian forces are still building their strength in the Dnipro River area, but we haven't really seen them pushing that heavily today from the area, so it seems as though today is a regrouping and refreshing day where the Ukrainians are going to come back at it again tomorrow. They'll be back at it again with the boys, as they say. But moving on from that, and back up into our location unknowns, it's time for us to cover the only two that we have. And starting off with our first one, we got to see that the 13th Brigade had some tanks in training today, which was really neat to see in pictures, because whoever the cameraman was doing a damn good job. First, we could see a T-72B3. Next, we could see a T-72B3. And then finally, in the last picture, we could see a T-72B firing its 125mm main gun, which I believe is a 2B43 gun. Nevertheless, really neat to see that the 13th Brigade is out there making sure to train, and hopefully when they get back to the front lines, they will be in great shape. We have heard something today, and this is something that I was actually thinking about while we were looking at these pictures of the 13th Brigade training. We were actually told in the live chat, we don't really look around YouTube much, I'm too busy to do that, but we were told in the live chat something interesting. Someone out there today has said that the Ukrainians are going to just lose here soon. They're just going to start falling back, retreating, and giving up everywhere. And who said it was actually kind of a little shocking, especially to us, knowing the story behind everything. I was like, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to say a statement like that, especially considering that U.S. support has begun anew again. And to move you all quickly out of the location unknowns, U.S. support has started up well enough that the Department of State is going to be giving $500 million alone to the Ukrainian energy infrastructure, so that way they can power their grid through winter. That's according to Next to Today, and that was announced by the State Department just hours ago. And considering that we're giving just $500 million to something that is generally what you could consider, as far as a war effort, a miscellaneous object, it's a little bizarre to say that because U.S. support stopped for just a few weeks and is now beginning again as strong as it ever was, now Ukrainian forces are just going to lose the war. I can't really believe a statement like that. It's a little weird to me, but we'll wait and see. We've been looking around for a little bit more confirmation as to that statement. Of course, we don't really look around enough to be able to know what everyone's saying on the internet at all times, but I gotta say, that was a little bit of a bizarre one, but if I can get you all more information on that, I will share it with y'all. But moving on from that and into our next bit of location unknown news, we also got to see that the Ukrainians were able to capture a new kind of recon radar that the Russians appear to be using. This thing is called the Trofiny PLC or RLC FARA BP for the Russian army. The FARA VR, sorry, because the B is actually a V in the Cyrillic alphabet. And the radar is apparently one that can be set up by a Russian recon unit, and the crew can sit in relative safety, kind of like a Stugna operator, while the radar is on. This should, in theory, mitigate the casualties of Russian recon units, and also allow them to try and conduct the vital reconnaissance that the Russian army would need to conduct the next day's fighting. The Ukrainians were able to get their hands on one of these, and it's very interesting to see how it works. We can see the radar turned on right there and what the display looks like, and hopefully the Ukrainians can take a very good and detailed look at how this system works and how it operates, so that way they can get an idea of what kind of weaknesses a Russian recon unit would have when using this kind of a portable reconnaissance radar. But moving on,
I like how these guys literally just fired this thing up right in the living room, staying within a couple of feet of it. I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think you're supposed to stand like at least 10 feet away from the thing, but they just fired it up right here.
Dude, you turn on the Geiger counter and it sounds like a song.
They're like, turn it on, Bliata. Who cares about radiation? Who cares?
But with that, it is time for us to move on from this little bit of location unknown news and really quickly up just north of Kyiv, because we got to saw another Gush gun in operation today, firing at air targets. Here it is. Get him, boy!
Ня.
Yeah.
И да,
Do it
сука.
now.
Вон. Давай, давай, давай.
Oh, they about to hit it. You see some ground fire, and there goes the gush.
Правее.
The Gush gun just seems like an unruly gun, like for how like small it is.
Yeah. It's a cool one, though. I like it.
Правее, правее, правее.
See them firing some AKs at the Shahed. The Gush gun is firing all small bursts. Oh.
Yeah.
And they got it! Hey, look at that!
Yes.
Damn! Let's see that again.
Yeah.
So it looks like the shot that took down the Shahed came from another battery, somewhere over across the tree line. But I love these little Gush guns here. They've been around for a while, ever since the 1960s in the Soviet Union, and are used by most former Soviet countries still in the modern day. But it is just so neat to watch one of these things in operation. These guns are 23 millimeter, and they're always in a tandem configuration, side by side. Just the neatest gun. I think it's one of the neatest things that the Soviet Union made that's of this type. And also, when this thing fires, it is unruly. Just watch. I mean, that thing's so cool. I just can't deny it. It is a pretty cool system. But moving on from that little clip, wonderful to see they were able to shoot down a Shahed and also let us see what was involved in doing that. And now, moving on from the location unknowns and some miscellaneous news through Ukraine, it's time for us to move into the northeastern area near Kupiansk, where we got to see that a Javelin anti-tank missile system was able to take out a Russian tank somewhere in the area. This was done by the 14th Brigade. Well, you see the Javelin right there with the red arrow, flying off into space, and it's about to come right back on top of that tank in the distance. Watch. It hits the tank, and the tank is done for. The ammo immediately detonating, and it's a complete loss. Rarely do we get to see a St. Javelin in operation these days, but whenever we do, it always reminds me of the amazing technology that the Stars and Stripes of this amazing republic have been able to create to quash Russians around the world. And once again, much like the technology was supposed to, it's being used against its actual intended enemy, the Russian Federation, or kind of the former Soviet Union. Beautiful to see, and I'd love to know that Javelins, which are a pretty dated system at this point, being brought into service in the 90s, around 30 years old, it's still doing quite well. And so, with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news and on into our next bit, a little bit further down the lines and into the area of Svatove, where we got to see Ukraine hitting some Russians here. This was a little bit older footage from September, but it's the first time that we've ever seen it. So we published it today, although I will tell y'all in advance, this is older footage. But we did get to see the Ukrainians taking out their anger on a grad battery. Also, another thing we got to see is the fault line that is in Ukraine in this area. And I can show it to y'all. You can actually see it from space for the most part. It's right here. And it just spans the entire northern area of Ukraine. Right outside of Svatove. We can also see it right here near Svatove. Svatove is literally on the eastern side of that fault line. And it just goes on and on and on up towards the area of the Russian border. But that's what you're seeing here in this clip. When you see the artillery hitting the grad battery, and it looks like the grad battery may be done for. It looks like they're in a little bit of a divot, or kind of a low point, both figuratively and literally.
Why does this kind of look like Afghanistan?
Afghanistan. But anyways.
Afghanistan also, aka the Taliban's storehouse, courtesy of the United States of America.
Hey man, we gotta let people have a taste of greatness every once in a while, man. Otherwise, they got nothing to live for out there, you know? Like, think about it, Matthew. The Taliban up till that point was using RPG-7s. Now, they get a little javelin as a treat, just to let them know what's out there. And hey, maybe one day they'll turn them around. Maybe they'll figure out that America is the better of the two. And I gotta tell y'all, the Russian bots are coming in strong tonight. Get 'em, Matthew. Get 'em.
Get out of here, bot.
But anyways, while we get this low energy rolling, because I feel like we're both low energy tonight. We're low energy, got no testosterone, just absolutely nothing. But we're going to be moving on from the area of Svatove and down into the area of Verkno-Kamyanka. We got an interesting little clip here today from the K2 battalion as they showed themselves knocking out some Russian forces. And I bet y'all are going to like it. Y'all will like it. I'm telling you, you're going to like it. We see them looking down the railroad track to a Russian artillery piece. Maybe a D-20. It's a Mr. B.
I hear some beautiful music.
Why'd you stop playing that beautiful music? We're going to mute that. But we can see the Mr. B.
I could make a comment right now, but I'll pass.
Well, I mean, if you want to, you can. I mean, no one's stopping
you. It's not stream appropriate.
It's a free country.
Yeah, but sometimes it's not wise to exercise your freedom.
Oh, go on, Matthew. You can say it. We're all friends here.
Nah, man, I'm going to hold back on that one.
Oh, man, he's holding back. You better watch out. But when you see the Kamaz driving by... Oh, wait a minute, hang on, Matthew. Yeah, I'm thinking of that song. Kamaz. And then it just scoots on past the camera frame. Bomblet's on its way. It then hits the Mr. B. And takes care of it.
Some people were saying it in the chat. Hey, at least I had to say it.
Oh, I see what y'all are all getting at now. My mind was not in that area. A lot of y'all appear to be in the gutter.
Well, mine's not in the gutter. It was just, it was there. And, well, never mind.
We're going to move on from that one. And we are going to keep it PG because I didn't know that's what it was. And when you see them just dropping bomblet after bomblet on top of this Mr. B to damage it as best as possible so that way it's an unusable piece once they're done with it. New of the year went, oh! And that's how I honestly feel at this point.
I was about to say that too.
Someone said Ukraine is so desperate, they're sending females to die on the battlefield. Wait, hang on, I gotta read the last part. You clowns support this? Well, or whatever sound a clown makes. I must be a clown then, because I haven't heard that. And second off, yes, I do support the Ukrainians defending their own country. If you don't like that, cope. See them coming to the Mr. B again and dropping more bomblets on top of it.
What's all these temperatures about at the top of the screen? Like, it's got a low, a max. I can't even interpret what that even mean.
I don't even know either. I guess it's just getting a little weather reading. Man, people were going off on that guy who said that in the live chat.
Let him have it.
Man, let him have it. Give him the whole 9 yards. Give him the whole 9 yards.
Give him the whole 9 yards.
Daniel,
that must be a football reference.
My boy Daniel Miller said, tell that to the Israelis, and the Israelis are hardcore. But we see the drone flying off again after dropping another little amount of bomblets.
You know, watching this footage makes me want to listen to that Russian song that was being played to the children yesterday again for some reason. Oh, look, a field.
Oh, look at that. It's a nice forest. And there's something down in it. Quick, bomb it. Take it out.
Man.
Take care of it.
Bambi's mother's about to run out into the middle of the field in a second.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. It's the meadow.
The way you said that, it was like the entrance to a movie. Introducing the meadow, coming to theaters near you. But we can see the drone flying on over to the forest. And everyone's bringing up the 9-yard ammo belt thing. I'm so proud of y'all. I love that y'all know the fact. That's really cool.
Oh, so it's not a football reference?
Oh, no. It was an ammunition reference.
Oh.
I'm so tired.
I thought you were going full Alabama or something like that. Go the whole 9 yards. Come on, coach. You can do it, coach.
Come on, coach. You can do it, coach. Because Congress is... Oh, well, you know what? That's getting a little too... It's about to start hauling off on someone. We'll hold back. But we can see the bomblet being lined up. Man, I was about to go raw and unfiltered right there. I was about to start giving it...
Hold on, Jamal. Put away the 9.
Whoa, Jamal. Don't pull out the 9. Oh, man.
Oh, damn. That laugh.
Oh, dude. You wouldn't believe it right now, man. I'm not even here. But we can see them lining up the bomblet. And I know y'all get tired of hearing about how tired I am. I know. But, like, in moments like these, it's tough to try and not mention it. But anyways... You see the bomblet getting lined up. They're about to drop it on the MTLB down there, and there it goes. Hopefully hitting the first time. Oh, and it did! That's nice.
Yeah, boom. Hey, they're saying something on the screen. Can't read it, though.
I can read
it. It's like the Charlie Chaplin end card.
Wait a minute, that right there said stop. Stop.
Morse, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know.
I like how some people, just from that small little bit you said before you stopped yourself, some people already knew who you were talking about. That's kind of wild.
Oh, man. Oh, goodness. Well, cat's out of the bag. Don't really like that guy much. Football is not the same thing as politics, you know. That's just my opinion.
Buy some more puts, coach. You can do it. Inside trade.
You know, when someone asked him, "What do you think about the U.S.'s fiscal spending policy?" He said, "I think it's like a Hail Mary." I said, "Yep, this guy ain't it. That's not it." I was like, "That's the worst way you could explain that. That has nothing to do with it." But when you see them continuing to hit the MTLB and the tree line, I know, John, if only you knew who it was, at least according to what we've heard, it would shock you. It would.
Don't say the name, whatever you do. Don't say it.
I'm not, but it would shock you. It actually would. When I heard it, I got to be honest, my initial inclination was to just get infuriated, knowing, you know, the whole story and everything we've dealt with. I was like, that's outrageous to even say something like that with no backing, of course. But yeah, you know, we're not going to say a name, but, you know, there's a rumor out there going around, and I was not happy to hear that that is even a rumor at all. But we can see the tank continuing to boing.
Also, huge shout out to the Morse code decoders tonight. Y'all have come through in spectacular fashion. We haven't had the whole roster like this in at least 3 or 4 nights.
And I got to thank y'all as well, because that is really nice to know. I love to hear it.
I love to hear it.
But with that,
I get no respect.
That's the end of that clip. Great to see the K2, of course, knocking out more Russian vehicles. And moving on down into the Bakhmut front, we also got to see some interesting stuff down here, like Russian armor literally melting. It melts it away. Here you go.
Там все, тут все сгорело. Хуям. Так сгорело, у вас тоже все пизда.
We can see the Russian tank burning on top of the Russian trench, with the Russian filming it.
Там некуда искать.
And they're kind of close for this thing to be on fire.
Видишь, вот горит нахуй. Пизда нахуй. Понял, не доберем, так въебал здесь. Я охуел, ебать. Вот наше место жительства было. Пизда. Пауэрбанк. Все, что осталось. Братан, фонарик есть у тебя? На. Да ты играешь, он с той стороны. А, бля. Даже броня вся поплавилась, ебать там.
And we see the tank just kind of melting away like some chocolate.
Сгорел, и твой танк сгорел. Да? Заебись. Да я сухой сгорел. Ну, от Марика, это, батарейка.
And he's picking up chunks of, like, stuff, Baofeng radios off of the ground.
Все, что осталось. Ты, братан, что пытаешься кому... Да вот у нас автомат, братан. Да ну, это приклады, ебать.
Got a little roast chicken over there. And they're still looking at this tank. They're just in awe of this thing. And that's the end of the clip. But it's a beautiful sight to watch the Russians filming their own tanks burning on top of their trenches. Moving on from that into the next clip, we also got to see some Stukas being used by the Ukrainian forces near Bakhmut. These servicemen. But we're about to watch these servicemen blow away these Russian tanks. There goes the Stukna. And we're about to watch it in full color, 4K HD.
Oh, it threw the turret.
Not yet.
But it did. I saw it.
That was Reese's Pieces, Matthew. That was no turret. Look. Is it turret?
Man, that's a turret, man. Come on, man.
Whoa, what happened? It might be the turret. I actually may be completely wrong there. That does look a lot like a turret.
I rate that a 9.5 out of 10. That was pretty good.
Oh, and that thing's cooking. Let him cook. Anyone can cook. That becomes really true when dealing with Russians. The quick little flash right there for no reason. And when you see another vehicle being hit, we see them looking at the ATGM launcher, overlooking a road. We now see the bunker. Kind of a nice bunker. It feels very rustic.
It's got the nice exposed beams on the sidewalls in the living room.
Man, it just feels so homey in there, you know?
Let's say homie.
Let's say homie. And we can see them loading up the ATGM. And we see some close-up views of it, of course. You know, we have to have that. Oh, look! It's a personal armor system for ground troops helmet. Wow. Dingbad YouTube asks, what do you wear under a kilt? That's a good question. It really depends on who you are. I always wear underwear under mine, black underwear. But some people wear nothing under it, and I just feel like that's a poor idea, especially when you know, going out there and doing things. I feel like that's a bad idea. But you know,
that's a lot of info.
Some people do it, you know, and that is what it is. But I'm answering his question, man. I'm being entirely honest with him.
Man, you tell him straight up. I like how there's a styrofoam on these things and nobody questions it, like in a war zone. It's like this expensive weapon system has like styrofoam sticking out of both ends. Everybody's like, oh, what a great system.
Man, that's the high-end stuff, though. The plastic styrofoam crap.
I guess so.
Man, they put the mufflers on this thing. The, what the hell is that called? The in-law, I think. And they're signing a little Ukrainian flag. Of course, very nice. And that's the end of the clip, but nice to see. And I love to know that they're still hitting Russians as hard as some folks, you know, hit something else. But moving on from that and into the Opitny area, we got to see the Achilles unit just knocking out Russian forces again down here. Just wiping them out. Get them! But here's the clip. Okay, they got some interesting music playing. They're about to hit a Rapira. They just hit it and took it out. Poof! And it's gone. And now we can see them hitting a supply truck. The boof, and it's gone. Like a zoink scoop. I don't think we're gonna make it. Raggy! You can see them hitting a T-72B3. We see them hitting another one. Ooh! And that was a Ural. And we now see them lining up a Grad. And the Grad's not Grad. And they hit it, taking it out.
Oh, that one Russian, he took off, but he didn't get very far. He just sort of took a sleepy.
Flight miles. And we can see them hitting another grad.
Land now, please, land now.
Low battery.
Ah. Hey, it's a Scooby-Doo pickup.
Like, Zoink Scoob, I think I moved into trucking. Ruh-roh, Raggy, Swift driver.
Man, when Scooby-Doo and the gang actually have to go get a job and stop bumming around looking into people's property. Let's turn it into a pickup truck. Let's go to Home
Eastbound
Depot.
down, rolling up and trucking. But anyways, oh man, dude, Freddy and the gang ain't hanging out in this thing. It doesn't have enough room. It's just Freddy.
Yeah, have you ever thought about it, like when Scooby-Doo and the gang go around solving these mysteries and stuff on these shows? What they're really doing is trespassing on people's property and then getting the homeowner arrested, all because they're on their own property doing their own thing.
I know,
It's like,
right?
What is this?
I know, dude. That's so BS. It's like these people are on their own property doing little spooky things because they want to, and you're getting them arrested for that? They're not doing anything illegal. Like, what did they do to you? They didn't do nothing. I mean, hell, most of the time, they don't even touch them. Like, they don't even commit battery. Or even assault, for that matter. Like, they just kind of like little spooky guys. And they're getting arrested for it. I mean, it's bull. It really is. And they're always owners. Like, you know, everyone's always talking about how Scooby and Gang's a bunch of damn commies. And I think they are. I really think they are, damn it. Because for them to get people, property owners, arrested on their own property for nothing, rather than being spooky, I mean, that's a real douche move right there. That's a douche move.
And that's why they don't get arrested, because they're communists. You know, it's common land. There's no ownership, so you can't get arrested for trespassing if everybody's land is the government's.
Dude, they're not bringing these guys to the cops. They're bringing them to the damn Revolutionary Guard for some revolutionary justice. These guys are getting killed by a firing squad off screen. I mean, this is bogus. But we're moving on because I'm going to go off in a minute if I keep on that topic. But we're moving on from that, and we're taking a look at this picture of an evening on the front lines, which was kind of nice. It looked kind of pretty, so I liked the picture, so I showed it to y'all. But moving on from that into our next clip, and our last one from the Boknum area, we got to see the nighttime flight of some drones in the 3rd Brigade that were using thermal imaging systems. Okay, we're going to mute that. I just turned it up as Blade Runner. It's like, all right. But we see the infrared being used here. And when you see it just making its way downtown, walking fast, and we see the little vehicle with its headlights on, and the drone's coming on in, and then badoosh, and it took it out. Beautiful, beautiful, like artwork, like something that Van Gogh would make. Only that we're not cutting ears off, we're blowing them off. But moving on from that now, the Bakhmut area and past Avdiivka, we also got to see near the Marinka area, the Ukrainian Special Forces knocking out a Russian supply truck. And also a couple of other items. Dude, that wolf must be lifting because it's got a whole on, like, girdle belt, like, around its, like, stomach. This thing, dude, be pumping iron when it's not, like, posing for the camera.
They're going to go to the hotel, spread them out, pump iron for 5 days straight, and, you know, knock them around a little bit.
I don't want you at the Clown Motel. You don't sound sane.
What if I come down there and knock you around a little bit?
Get off my
dude,
phone.
it's called the Clown Motel. You only get, like, the finest and the greatest people. Why do you call it the Clown Motel, then?
Dude, yeah, it's the Clown Motel because of the prices you pay. You got to be a clown to pay those nightly rates. But we see the Grad firing off its rockets after it caught on fire. That's the end of that clip. But y'all know I love to see clips like that. They get me going. But moving on from that down into the Southern Front, we only got one clip from the entire Southern Front. It shows the SBU destroying a Hyacinth artillery piece. And so here's the clip. This was also done with a ram.
Have you ever wanted to blow up a Russian artillery piece with something that sounds a lot like a pickup truck but is actually a flying drone? Well, then you, my friend, are in luck. Introducing the all-new Ram 2 loitering drone, or loitering bomb. Look at that thing blow away that Gyansen-S. I bet you they're not feeling that Gyansen anymore, or giant for that matter. Guts. pieces ram.
But anyways, moving on from that clip, beautiful to see. But that's all we have from the Southern Front. But y'all know what's up. The next part of the news. That's right, everyone. We're going to the Middle East. Because peace in the Middle East was never achieved. And so we're still here. We're still there. And we got it covered. Because things are going on down there that are pretty big, pretty important, and pretty shocking. Stick around, because it's about to get fun in the Middle East. We gotta find out a way to make that rhyme, like peace in the Middle East. We gotta come up with a phrase that's like fun in the Middle East, but we gotta make it sound like it rhymes. Y'all need to get on that, and I'll pick out the best one in the live chat and we'll run with it. But so many of y'all were talking about Ukraine, and I'm not even kidding. A lot of y'all were talking about Ukraine. It's almost like it's what we're talking about on the show. But so many of y'all were talking about it. I got to hear what y'all's hot takes of the day are. So, Matthew, what are the hot takes of this evening?
All right, so moving into our first poll and question segment of the stream. We're getting into the poll segment actually pretty late in the stream, kind of surprisingly. It's already 10:14. But this poll says Estonia has begun deploying Dragon's Teeth along the Russian border. And what does this mean? 75% said they just want added protection. 15% said an attack might be imminent. 8% said unsure. And 3% said, it seems kind of like an isolated incident. And on this one, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what the motivation behind this is, but deploying Dragon's Teeth is to defend against tanks. I know some folks are thinking, well, Dragon's Teeth really aren't that effective against tanks compared to some other methods. And on that, I'm going to have to leave that to the enforcer. He's more of an expert on the Dragon's Teeth. But the
Sorry, go ahead.
But the symbolism behind the Dragon's Teeth alone is that Estonia thinks there's a pretty big threat coming their way. And to me, it would seem maybe like it's not just a small thing. Also, I got distracted by a message there that just came across my screen. But I would say I'm kind of unsure. But Enforcer, what say you?
Dragon's Teeth are one of the #1 ways to stop a tank, Matthew. You're right. The hedgehogs are not really preferred anymore because the hedgehogs are kind of hard to secure in the ground. The Dragon's Teeth is a little bit easier. So, you would be right. And those are made to defend against tanks. And the fact that they're putting them out tells me that they plan on having tanks train across the border sometime soon. And I just gotta tell y'all, not really a geopolitical expert or anything. Gotta let y'all know that. I only have a bachelor's degree in history, but tanks crossing your border, historically, is not a great thing. So, going off of that, sounds like Estonia's got big plans coming in the future. Plans that they're probably hoping won't happen, but it's fine, because Big Daddy NATO is here to help, and we're always happy to help. We're always happy to blast a couple of Russians, just for the hell of it. And so with that, hope that does address that well, and y'all know what's up. We're on to the next one.
All right, and our next poll question says, if it will pull up here, it says Russia's spokesman Peskov says, quote unquote, the next Russian president will be the same as Putin. And what does he mean? 71% said Putin will be reelected. 15% said a Putin-like candidate will win. 11% said one of the body doubles will win. And 4% said unsure. And on this one, it's a little bit cryptic, but I pretty much know what the answer is. I think most of y'all do as well. 71% said Putin will be reelected, and I think that is the case. One of the body doubles, that was kind of like a comedic choice there. Not really serious, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he does have body doubles, but we've never been able to truly confirm it. And a Putin-like candidate winning, I don't even think there's a need to pretend like Russia is a democracy anymore after what they've done in Ukraine. I think Putin will stay until the day he dies. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, Russia ain't no democracy. We all know that. Man, it's a joke to even say that Russia's a democracy. You know what they really are?
They're a commie country.
Nah, man, they ain't no commie country. They're a country of bootlickers. And you know whose boot they're licking? None other than Putin's. They love Putin's boot because it tastes like shit. But nevertheless, it's just throwing it out there raw tonight. He's going to get reelected because the elections are rigged in Russia. Everyone knows that. That's why he's been able to win elections along with Medvedev for like the last 20 years or so, completely unopposed, winning the majority every time. So, I don't even think that's like a question. It's not even shocking to me to hear that. He's practically the dictator for life. They just used the little goofy democratic loophole they have to make it seem like it's democratic, but it isn't at all. So anyways, hope that does address that well, in my opinion. And once again, it's just my opinion, y'all. Calm down. Just because I say it doesn't mean it's fact, unless if you think it is. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have one more poll to address. We're going to go ahead and address this one, even though it was meant for the next segment. The question is, no cap. The question is, Erdogan says Germany is only supporting Israel because of its guilt from the Holocaust. And what are your thoughts? 42% said no, that's completely false. 33% said, that might be a small reason. 16% said, yes, that's completely true. And 9% said unsure. And I have to say, I'm kind of surprised at the results on this poll. I thought a lot more people would say that's completely false. I personally don't think that's the reason behind it. I think Germany has tried to move on from that entire situation, and not trying to say anything, minimizing it. But Germany is simply supporting Israel right now because it serves their present foreign policy interests. Just like the reason we're supporting Israel, because they're basically, like I said in the video earlier today, they're like our liaison in the Middle East, and that's the way we exact our foreign policy desires there in that region. That's the same reason Germany is doing it, in my opinion, as well. I don't think countries operate on a guilt basis. That's like applying human standards to an entire country, and I don't think that really is the way it works. But Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta be honest. Saying that Germany is supporting Israel because of the Holocaust or whatever is like saying that Turkey supports Armenia because of the Armenian genocide. It's not true because Turkey doesn't even. They hate the Armenians still. So, going off of that, little goofy take, I'm not gonna lie. And also, isn't Erdogan like the number one hypocrite? If we're looking at this historically and they want to be the new Ottoman Empire again, wasn't it the Ottomans that allowed the Jewish people to buy the land that Tel Aviv sits on today and allowed them to build a city there? Because if I remember correctly, that's how it went. Everyone keeps on talking about all this illegal immigration, this illegal immigration, that. How the hell is it illegal when everyone was encouraging them to go there? I mean, the Ottomans did. That's how Tel Aviv even exists. And then when it became a British mandate under the League of Nations, the British encouraged them to go there. Hell, everyone did. The Germans encouraged the Jews to go to Israel before World War II broke out. I mean, this was just a common thing. There was nothing illegal about it. And it's absolutely stupid that Turkey sits there and says the stupid statements it does, because with historical context, they're the reason why they're there. They encouraged them to go there. I mean, it's stupid, because if y'all didn't know, that everyone always, I gotta go through this, because everyone always talks about, Zionism's the only reason that Israel exists and Zionism's terrible. There was two options, right? For where the Jews would go and create a Jewish state. One was in Israel, where it is today. The other one was in Brazil. One of the plans was to go to Brazil and create a Jewish state there. They had options. The reason why they ended up going to Israel is because the Ottomans sold the land to them cheap. That's why they're there. I mean, the whole reason they're there right now is because of the Turks. I mean, if you want to call the Ottomans the Turks, that's why they're there. So that's a stupid take for the Turks to make, to be anti-Israeli. They're the whole reason they exist, really, in the modern world. And also, the Germans don't support Israel because they have some guilt from the Holocaust. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's 80 years on, and while the Germans are sorry about it, countries don't go, like Matthew said, and act like people and go, I feel so bad. Because if that was the case, imagine how many, every single country on earth would be doing something because they felt bad for something. I mean, with the Chinese, it would be crushing the Tibetans, or, putting the Uyghurs in concentration camps like they are right now. For the Indians, it would be putting down the Pakistanis for a little bit before they split off and created two separate countries. For Australia, it would be the Aboriginal people. For New Zealand, it would kind of be a similar story. For the United States, it would be what we did to the Native Americans, and also what we did to the Japanese Americans that we interned in World War II. For the Canadians, it would also be crimes against natives. For the British, it could really be anything, anywhere. I mean, you just name a part of the world, they were there doing something a little questionable. For the Russians, hell, just look at their country. It controls 15% of the landmass of the earth. About 90% of that landmass they control, they crushed local people to have that land. Everybody in the world would be doing something as an apology for something they've done in the past. And that's absolutely ridiculous to say that the Germans are a special kind of an instance in that. It doesn't make any sense. The reason why they support Israel is because Israel is a Western ally, unlike other countries in the area like Syria or Iran. So obviously they're going to support Israel. Then the alternative. Because why in the world would anyone in the Western world with any common sense support terrorist groups that are funded by a nation that wants to see everyone in the Western world dead? I mean, the Iranians hate the West, and it's no joke. They wish, and like the North Koreans, every waking day to see everyone in the West dead. They don't care if you support them or not. They want you dead. So why in the world would any country go, oh yes, let me support the country that's bidding on our downfall on a given daily basis? That would be stupid. That's why Germany supports Israel. And if the Turks had any sense, or if Erdogan had any sense, he would know it's a lot better to support Israel, because once Iran gets done dealing with Israel, you know where they're going to be going? They're going to be going into Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and they're going to be screwing those folks over. Like, Erdogan thinks the Kurds and their small militant activities in southeast Turkey are bad right now. Wait until the Iranians focus their attention entirely on destabilizing Turkey and they start funding and equipping the Kurds there. It is going to be a nightmare of dimensions that have never been seen before in Anatolia ever. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And let's get onto those super chats, because I've seen a lot of people throwing in some very interesting ones.
All right, so moving into our first super chat of the night, we have a very generous $90 donation from Kiwi Girl 11111. And thank you very much, Kiwi Girl, for that very generous support. And she said, very rare to catch a live, but I watch you every night in New Zealand time, and huge effort creating these streams, and respect to you both. And love Ukraine and love the LSA. What now?
Smiley face. Thank you so much, Kiwi Girl, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And it's really cool to know that you're watching all the way from New Zealand right now. New Zealand is a beautiful country. And I don't say that just to, like, schmooze your country. It's a beautiful place. And I gotta say, thank you so much for getting up at the time of day that you get up to watch this stream at night. I hope you're enjoying it right now. And I thank you so much for enjoying the effort I put into these streams nightly, because I try my best to make sure that things keep on rolling, things keep on running, and dadnabbit, we've been doing it. And I've been kind of proud of myself lately, because the exhaustion I feel right now is so much. I feel like I'm kind of delusional, or just not even really mentally here right now. But hopefully things are still running well in front of everyone. So with that, thank you so much.
And I feel proud too, because I'm here, too. Hello.
Well, Matthew, I can only speak for myself, man, but Matthew is doing some huge woik. I mean, like, he is in the background while I'm talking and yip-yapping and saying stuff. He's working back there, and he's smacking bots, he's taking down names, and he's getting ready to do something. But still, thank you so much for the support. I'm just acting absolutely crazy tonight, and I'm about to cough up a storm every single second of it too. But thank you so much, Kiwi Girl, for the massive amount of support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, I wouldn't be able to be on air yip-yapping right now, and Matthew wouldn't be able to be on air with me right now too, because we're an inseparable team. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next super chat question is going to go to Mark, the recidivist astronomer, who puts in a $50 donation. Recidivist. Sure, there you go. And thank you very much, Mark, for that support, and we do appreciate it very much. And also, he says, well done, Karkadon, Megalodon, Duck Don, too slow, Matt Don Split. Astronomical factoid, a day is 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.25 seconds. Don. Man, Mark, that was like the finest mixture of very simplistic comedy, plus a lot of intelligence there at the very end with the astronomical factoid. I don't know what to think, but Enforcer, what say you?
I don't know what to think either. I'm completely blown away. But I got to thank you so much for the humor, Mark. That was almost like Duncan VR. Man, I miss Duncan. Where is he? But anyways, I got to say, thank you for the support, Mark, the recidivist astronomer. And also, thank you for throwing in the Dons. I appreciate the Don. And also, very interesting factoid to hear that a day is only 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4.25 seconds. Think about that. Our clocks are off approximately 3 minutes every day. That's kind of scary when you think about it. What's going to happen? Is the world going to blow up because of that? I don't know. Is the Earth flat? No. I'm not even gonna say that as a joke. It's just not. But anyways, thank you so much once again for support, Mark, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, where would we be right now? We would be nowhere. We wouldn't be able to run this show. And support from folks like you, Mark, are the reason why we are able to be here right now. As tired as I am, as tired as Matthew is, and as hard working as we've been, y'all support makes it all possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the final question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the Middle Eastern news as Matthew gets that bastard. And so with that, what's the last question?
All right, and our last question, and real quick, I was going to say something I saw on Twitter real quick. I just saw that ABC News said that an Australian naval ship, which was operating in international waters off Japan, sustained minor injuries. Oh, you do? Oh, man, I just blew it.
Dude,
took
your
thunder away.
You took the thunder. You took the steam. I had that
How'd
in the
you get it
news.
already? It's like fresh news. It like just came out.
What do you mean? Dude, I had this for hours, man. This came out at 6 o'clock.
Oh, damn, man. Somebody just posted like it was new. Like they took your thunder, man.
Man. Dude, this is going to be the bombshell, man. This is literally going to be the bombshell that we were moving into.
Well, we'll move into that bombshell in just a minute. But anyways, our last Super Chat question is going to go to Marion Deemert, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Marion, for that support. And she said, love you guys. And how is Uni doing? And Uni is doing swell. It's getting very stressful because the final exams are coming around, but it's okay, though. We'll pull through, and we'll make whatever grade we make. I'm just coming to terms with that at this point. Can't keep stressing. It'll turn out the way it does. But, Enforcer, what say you?
Matthew, does that mean you're going to go to the range day?
No, that doesn't mean that.
What the hell?
I still got to study.
What the hell do you mean? Like, okay, but I still thank you for the support, Marion, and helping this channel to keep on running. And we love you too, Marion. We love all of you. And I got to thank you so much for supporting the channel and helping us keep this thing running, so that way we can be here and get to talk to all of y'all about how Uni is going. And Uni is going. It's going a little bit slowly, a little bit quickly other times, and sometimes I'm just so exhausted, I don't even know. But we are powering through, and you know what? I'm going to be words of optimism. We're going to do great. We're going to do fine. We're going to make B's and C's, and we're going to make it through. And we're going to survive. And you know what? We're going to make it all the way through law school. I'm going to pass the bar, and then I'm going to go around suing everybody. Because the path of vengeance has just begun. But still, I'm just kidding around about that. But still, thank you so much for the support, Marion, and I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much for being here with us tonight and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to talk about how university is going, and we wouldn't be able to run this show, most importantly. And I got to thank everyone for the support. And I can't remind y'all enough that support is the only way we keep this channel running. And so, you know, if you do enjoy the channel, you do not have to. It is entirely free to watch, but we are greatly appreciative for any support. And so with that, we are now moving on out of this question segment and on into the Middle Eastern news. Starting off with the bombshell. Is it really a bombshell anymore? Is it?
And on that bombshell.
So we're going to be moving on into the news. An Australian boat, as you all may have heard, was patrolling off the coast of Japan with, you know, some sailors. For some reason, they were in the water. And a People's Liberation Army Navy vessel kind of got a little bit near. And then they turned on the active sonar. If y'all don't know, the active sonar's pings, when you're in the water, can end up liquefying your organs. And although the active sonar was turned on while these Australian sailors were in the water, luckily enough for them, it was far enough away that they only ended up getting minorly injured, which means they probably have some kind of internal bleeding. But nevertheless, that did happen today, a few hours before the stream started, around 3 hours ago, and according to the report, Australian naval personnel have sustained minor injuries after being subjected to sonar pulses from a Chinese warship. The HMS, His Majesty's Australian ship Toowoomba has been operating in international waters off Japan in support of a United Nations mission to enforce sanctions when the incident occurred on Tuesday. Despite acknowledging Toowoomba's communications, the Chinese vessel approached at a closer range, the defense minister said. Soon after, it was detected operating its hull-mounted sonar in a manner that posed a risk to the safety of the Australian divers who were forced to exit the water. A little bit of a serious incident. Of course, the Chinese have led to the injury of several Australian divers that were operating off of the ship. We do not know much more information beyond that. We don't know what kind of diplomatic incident is going to be the fallout of this whole ordeal, but this comes... Man, I gotta stop smoking sometime, you know what I mean? But This comes right after the dictator arrived here in the United States and then got called a dictator to his face, and then he flew back to China. So it appears that Western relations are probably not going to be improving if this incident is anything to go off of. Kind of a little aggressive on the Chinese end. But moving on from that little bit of a side shoot of news in East Asia, it's time for us to get back to the Middle East. Because they're not the only forces being attacked and wounded right now. More American forces are being attacked and wounded as we're speaking right now. And funnily enough, there are people out there who just don't care. But moving on into the news, we did get to hear, according to Phytox News again today, that there have been several attacks against U.S. forces in Syria today, resulting in multiple minor injuries, according to the U.S. Department of Defense. It appears that our retaliatory strikes against the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, as well as Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps-backed terrorist groups, have not been producing the kind of results they were looking for, and once again, there probably needs to be a much stronger response by the U.S. Against the Iranians and the attacks that they've been sponsoring against U.S. forces. Just because they're Iranian-backed terrorist groups does not mean that that removes Iran from any kind of culpability for what's happening. These folks need to be blasted and taught a lesson about why you do not mess with the United States military anywhere in the world. You just act like they're not there, you leave them alone. Meanwhile, in northern Israel, we have seen that Israel is starting to take much stronger action against Hezbollah, like the little midget guy that y'all see on TikTok every once in a while. But in all seriousness, they're dropping white phosphorus on Hezbollah. Here's the clip. Man, they ain't playing.
They aren't playing no games out here.
And from what we understand, this is in a rural area somewhere in the fields, so it's not violating any kind of rules of war. It's not a war crime. This is a legal use of the munition, and still, once again, showing continued escalations. This is a response to air raid sirens going off almost hourly in northern Israel over the course of the last 2 weeks, because Hezbollah continues to fire rockets along with Hamas into the area of northern Israel, once again making sure that tensions remain high and Israeli forces remain on high alert in the area. Hezbollah has also been attacking those Israeli forces in the area to a significant degree. We saw that Hezbollah fired an ATGM at a Merkava main battle tank stationed along the border today. We get to see their stupid intro. And now we can see the clip.
Oh, there's that dumb logo. It had to pop up.
Have you ever wanted the refreshing taste of an AK? Well, you've got it, friends.
It's like AK. Well, let's see. What's a good AK-7 up, AK-74 up.
That's it. AK-47 up.
Tasty.
Tasty. Period. When you see the Merkava right there, why am I coughing so much? And it just got hit by the ATGM. Did it get knocked out though? We don't know. It's probably disabled, but I don't think it went to the crew compartment. Because notice how they just keep on showing the replay of the tank getting hit, but they're not showing the aftermath. That tells me that the tank was probably damaged, but not knocked out. But of course...
Oh, they look at him showcasing the logo now. Get that thing off the screen.
That thing is ugly. I can't stand it. It's so stupid. And also, why? Why pick an AKM? Why not an AK-74? Why not something Gucci? They had to go with the stupid... Anyways, we're moving on from that. There's no point in even talking about that a lot. But we're going to be moving on into the northern area of the West Bank because we did see that Hamas did conduct an attack at an Israeli military checkpoint within the area today. See the Israeli police issuing an order. Writing on his notepad. And now we hear some rifle fire. We see the policeman whipping out the gat. No hesitation. Man didn't even jump. He's like, oh boy, here we go. Kill him again. So he goes running towards the gunfire. And he starts blasting.
He went from writing a citation to slinging lead in 2 seconds.
Dude, this guy went from killing someone's mood to killing terrorists in 2 seconds.
Throw your hands!
Stop resisting!
Stop resisting!
And we see a little blur on the ground.
לפרוק נשקים. לפרוק נשקים. דרכת? כן, כן, כן. תפרוק עכשיו. עכשיו. שמה, שמה.
Man, and he didn't even drop the ticket. A huge credit to this guy. I mean, this guy went off. And I gotta say, impressive. I mean, really, look at this. Look at this, watch. Look, the ticket's here. Gunfire begins. He just casually turns towards the gunfire. He's like, what's going on over there? Whips out the gun, and he's still got the ticket in hand the whole time. Mad respect. You know what he did, Matthew, is that once the firefight was over, that guy, like, got back up inside of his van, and this guy came over. He was like, yeah, so, anyways, I'm getting you for a parking violation. Here's the ticket right here, and here's the court date. If you want, you can sign on that. If not, that's fine, but you'll have to show up for the court date. And the guy was like, dude, you just got in a firefight. He's like, yeah, you know, it's a normal day. But anyways, we'll take care, man. Take care. But still, mad respect. Anyways, we're going to be moving on from that little clip. Great to see the Israeli police, you know, doing policing things. And moving on from that, we also got to see a little picture of some F-15s preparing for a sortie. And these guys were loaded. There's the 2,000-pound JDAMs. The
Damn, look at that eagle, though, man. That paint job is crazy.
Dude, they sat there and said, we styling on these folks right here, man. And also, I got mad respect for the amount of JDAMs they have on the single F-15 and the other one as well. The meme speaks for itself. It's not a meme, it's a reality. The Israelis just love JDAMs. But still, great to see the Israeli Air Force getting ready for some action. Speaking of action, a lot went down in the Gaza Strip today. Starting off at Beit Hanun, we got to see that some Hamas terrorists ended up getting the short end of the stick as they were seen by the Israeli Air Force, and they ended up getting eliminated. Kind of like the Hunger Games. But here's the clip. When you see him right there on the rooftop, wandering around with some guns in hand. And of course, that doesn't do them well. Ooh. Precise little strikes. They're not JDAMs. They're something else, but they're still pretty effective. Great to see that they were able to take out a couple of Hamas terrorists in the area. And moving on from that little bit of news and further on towards Beit Lahia, we also got to see that the Israelis found some weapons and then removed them. And look at this weapons cache. They even put little Palestinian flags on them to make sure that you knew they were Palestinian. And we can see them looking around, and they found a lot of stuff. Goofy-looking stuff, like this. This just looks stupid. And then moving on to the next picture, we can also see more rockets that they made. They even put a little number and name on the side of these. It's like the Ford F-150, but a rocketized. And then the last picture, guess what? We also get to see one of their crabby little rocket launchers. I mean, this is...
Look at that, hiding under the nasty old tin roof.
Man, you know something, man? The Hamas is like 10. They're weak, and they're also pretty lame. But still, it's beautiful to see that the Israelis were able to capture these weapons before they were used against them, and hopefully they'll be able to destroy these safely in a safe location inside of the occupied territory. Moving on from that and into our next bit of news, in the area of Atatra, we saw that weapons had been found today by Israeli Defense Forces inside of a kindergarten. Once again, Hamas does care about the citizenry, and that's why they always want to make sure that they're very familiarized that they are, in fact, being used as human shields. Here's the clip. Wow, look at that. It's mortar shells inside of a kindergarten. Crazy stuff. It's like Hamas is a terrorist group that doesn't really care about people and kind of just uses them for their own advantage. Wow, nuts. I thought they were like freedom fighters and wonderful people or something. At least that's what I've been told by other people. Anyways, we're going to be moving on from this one clip and on into the next one, where we also got to see that some more equipment was found inside of that kindergarten. And look at this. They got some rigs with AK mags in them. It looks like AKMs. And then also, we got to see a couple of the additional weapons that they have. Look at this. A knife. Some toothpaste. Pretty normal
stuff. Some lotion.
So a laptop. I mean, these guys are dangerous. It looks like they're about to go to college, you know. And of course, like every kid going to college, they just have, you know, an RPG-7 to go with and a couple of high explosive warheads. And then they also have a couple of AKs, you know, just normal stuff. A couple of AK mags and a couple of grenades. But all in all, that's normal stuff you find in a kindergarten. Kids these days, they're just a little violent. But anyways, we're going to be moving on from that. Once again, Hamas violating the Geneva Convention by doing something like that. But of course, they're the good guys, right? They're the ones fighting for their freedom, and obviously everything they do is justified. But moving on from that and into an interesting little picture, we got to see an Apache gunship flying over the Strip. I thought it was a pretty cool picture, just kind of hovering around up there, having a fun time, and providing some fire support for the Israeli Defense Forces on the ground that are pushing through the town. Moving on from that and into our next little bit of news in the area, we also got to see that a building was destroyed after a weapons cache was found inside of it. It's kind of crazy how many weapons caches the Hamas militants had in the entire city, but here's the clip. We see this guy inside of a Namer APC getting ready to demolish the building.
שנרצחו על ידי החולים האלה, השם ייקום דמם, פסל שלי בעוד 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Any second now. Oh, and there it goes.
Yeah!
Yeah, baby! But anyways, that's seeing that little clip. Very nice to see. And moving on from that and on into our next clip, we also got to see near the Al-Shifa hospital that they found more weapons caches. Would you believe it? Would you believe it? I would. We can see the one that we saw yesterday, and then we can also see a new one that appears to be inside the hospital. Would you look at that? I'm completely flabbergasted. The terrorists were using the hospital. You see a hospital bed right back there in the corner as a weapons cache. What do you know? They got a couple of more AKs, a couple of more AK mags, more grenades, some radios, looks like they're Baofangs, and also some more bulletproof plates for folks to use. I'm starting to think, y'all, that the Hamas people aren't as nice as they're making them out to be. Because they're always complaining that the Israelis are putting Palestinians in harm's way, but isn't this putting Palestinians in harm's way, using hospitals as weapon caches and headquarters? I feel like that is more so putting them in danger than the Israeli Defense Forces, but you know what they say, they're freedom fighters, that's a little bit of an arbitrary thing nowadays. But moving on from that into the next bit of news, we also got to see that Hamas is such a great group of people. And I say all this as sarcasm because this is actually something that's a little bit more dark, and this was only one of the many reports that we got today. So, this is just a small glimpse into some of the information that the Israeli Defense Forces have been able to find today. But the 19-year-old Corporal Noah Marciano was found dead today near the Al-Shifa hospital. She was one of the initial hostages that was taken on October 7th and had been inside of Hamas captivity since then. It turns out that Hamas had actually not held her captive for long and had ended up executing her just mere days after the war had begun. The Israeli Defense Forces recovered her body today and will be sending it back to Israel for a proper burial. Her body was also found within the vicinity of the Al-Shifa hospital, and this is only one of 5 of these reports that I was able to find today where the Israeli Defense Forces ended up finding hostages that had been murdered by their captors. Moving on from that sad bit of news and on through the rest of the area, we got to see near Zaytun today that Israel was taking out some of these terrorists that conduct these kinds of sick actions. We see the guy is armed with an RPG, and he's about to lose his arms for that. Watch him see. Here comes the strike. And like they say in bowling, it's a strike.
He has been disarmed.
Call that Israeli Air Force pilot Tiger Woods, because that was a hole-in-one. Moving on from that little bit of news and on out of there and towards the next bit of news, we were able to see that the IDF was able to conduct some more airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. And here they go. Look at them running around. Ooh!
Whoa, go get them, man.
Man. I don't think those guys are going to be around much longer. We can see them hitting another building down to the foundations.
Do you want to do a push-up, fatty?
Oh, he's a dictator. That's it, man. He's right here. Yeah, he's still a dictator. But we can see another compound being hit. Ooh. Oh, dang. And Melody, I hate to say it, but I'm kind of doubting that as well at this point. But we can see them continuing to strike more Hamas compounds that are being used to store weapons. At this point, we're, just not really going... well, to be entirely honest with y'all, the civilians in the area of Gaza City have been given so much time now to evacuate. If there are civilians here, that's kind of their problem. They've been given due notice for weeks at this point, over a month. It's been a month and a half now. If they are still here, with the Israelis clearly indicating that it is a war zone, and even giving 4-hour pauses to the combat daily at this point to allow people to be able to pack up and leave, that's on them at this point. But we can see that Israel was able to conduct some very successful strikes in the area, and hopefully make sure to continue to knock out Hamas forces as they move further into the city. We also saw in the south that Israel was able to find even more weapons caches and ended up destroying the buildings that these weapon caches were found within. Well, damn. We can also see some secondary explosions down there that do indicate there was ammunition in the buildings and it's now exploding.
I mean, come on, Jack. If you blow up, anyways.
I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping, and I said, "You dictator bastard." But anyways, moving on from that little bit of news, that is, let me make sure. Yeah, actually, we're moving on out into the Gaza Sea, or more so the Eastern Mediterranean is probably what it should be called. But we can see that the Israeli Defense Forces published a statement today, once again showing more proof of weapons that Hamas had put inside of hospitals. When you see one guy toting in an RPG into a hospital at Rantisi Hospital, we got to see one of the weapon caches found in there. See bulletproof vests hidden in pillows. And we see one of the motorcycles used in the slaughter of Israeli civilians on the 7th of October, found within the inside of a hospital.
Hey, is this the same guy they had in the other video?
Yeah, way back in the day. And this was his testimony from back then, and they're showing what he said way back in the day now. But that's the end of that clip, and once again showing proof that the Hamas terrorists are using hospitals as military sites. But that's all of the Middle Eastern news we have today. It's time for us to move back into Ukraine to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 632 of the war. And so, without further ado, here is the speech. Speech!
Speech. Please can I have some speech?
You can have one speech.
Thanks.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці, українки. Провів сьогодні ставку з детальною доповіддю міністра оборони щодо наступного року забезпечення сил оборони по кожному з напрямків та усім параметрам снаряди, зброя, техніка, амуніція, те, що поки в дефіциті, і те, що об'єктивно треба буде збільшити, враховуючи плани наших активних дій. Мінстратегпром доповів щодо нашого власного виробництва зброї та боєприпасів. Мета на збільшення виробництва досягається. Це важливо. І я вдячний усім працівникам і працівницям нашого оборонно-промислового комплексу, усім партнерам, які допомагають. Детально обговорили реалізацію української ракетної програми, яка була розпочата ще у 2021 році, і кожен бачить, що її результати щорічно все більш далекобійні, приємні для України та саме такі неприємні для ворога, як це і потрібно. Буде ще більше результатів. До речі, активно рухаємось зі Сполученими Штатами по спільному виробництву зброї. Під час мого візиту в Вашингтон ми домовились з президентом Байденом про цілком конкретні речі, які можемо зробити разом, і це точно посилить і американців, і українців, і наших партнерів. Спільне виробництво завжди посилює. Цими днями під час перемовин за участі Андрія Єрмака та нашої урядової команди обговорили конкретику. В грудні цього року відбудеться спеціальна конференція української та американської промисловості, урядовців та інших державних діячів, усіх тих, хто організовує забезпечення нашої оборони. Доволі потужну подію готуємо. У розвиток форуму оборонних індустрій, який відбувся у вересні. Тепер форум у Вашингтоні та відповідна робота з озброєнням як в Україні, так і в Америці. Я дякую Сполученим Штатам і президенту Байдену, і його команді, Конгресу, обом партіям, які підтримують нас. А також я хочу особливо відзначити американські оборонні компанії та партнерів в Європі, усіх, хто реально наповнює змістом захист свободи. У цей час усім нам треба бути максимально результативними, щоб час життя наших дітей і онуків не був вкрадений війною. Сьогодні є і хороша новина щодо оборонних пакетів для наших воїнів. Є рішення Фінляндії про новий пакет. Дякую за це. Вже 20 пакетів підтримки ми отримали саме від Фінляндії. Усі вони посилюють не лише нас, а увесь східний фланг Європи. Бо коли Україна міцна і незалежна, вся Європа може почувати себе захищеною від російської агресії. Важливі доповіді були на ставці щодо ситуації на конкретних фронтових напрямках. Донеччина, Харківщина, південні напрямки. Доповідали головком та генерали Сирський, Тарнавський, Москальов, Содаль. Я дякую кожному нашому воїну. Дав сьогодні окреме доручення Міністерству оборони та Генеральному штабу щодо реагування на носіїв кінжалів, які зупиняють нашу країну на години через повітряну тривогу. Наш рівень ППО і загалом готовність до ракетних загроз дозволяє дещо осучаснити реагування без непотрібних зупинок країни. Це важливо для мільйонів наших людей. Я очікую відповідних пропозицій. Ще одне. Почав сьогоднішній день зі спеціальної наради з міністром фінансів та урядовцями, які відповідають за освітній напрямок. Багато чутливих питань і відповіді на них очікують мільйони українських студентів. Цей ресурс на стипендії і певні деталі новацій для вищої освіти. Ми проговорили також і все, що потрібно для зміцнення професійно-технічної освіти в Україні. Все це дуже-дуже конкретно. Саме так, як і потрібно у День студентів. Звичайно, що більшість того, про що ми говорили, правильно буде представити саме міністру освіти. Хороші речі. І стипендії гарантуємо студентам. Також шукаємо можливість, щоб їх підвищити і на відбудову університетів, які були пошкоджені або зруйновані російськими ударами. Ми ресурс знайдемо. Я сьогодні був в одному з українських університетів, Маріупольському державному. Він зараз переміщений до Києва. І він працює. І що важливо, береже віру в Україну, в наших людей і у те, що Україна буде вільною, уся Україна. Поспілкувався зі студентами. Дякую за щирість та енергію. Бажаю усім нашим українським студентам, студенткам, щоб ви могли реалізувати себе в Україні. Заради України. Абсолютно гідно, сучасно і на користь собі та державі. Наблизити перемогу в цій війні, гарантувати безпеку, дати якнайбільше захисту нашим людям і нашій державі. Я дякую усім, хто б'ється і працює саме заради цього, заради наших людей, заради нашої незалежності. Слава Україні!
And Gherom Slava.
Gherom Slava. And with that, that is the end of the address from President Zelensky on day 632. And y'all know what's about to happen. We're moving on into the second part of the stream. Matthew, take it away.
All right. And we're moving on to our last segment of the stream, which is our poll and question segment, the second one. And our first poll question is going to say, an outspoken Russian general died in his vacation home by carbon monoxide poisoning. And what are your thoughts? 75% said Russian generals don't have accidents. 10% said, it sounds suspicious, but I need more info. 12% said he probably just left the stove on. And 2% said unsure. And plot twist, the Russian generals don't cook. So he probably did not leave the stove on. Maybe his wife or something had maybe left the stove on, perhaps. I don't know. But in this case, I would say Russian generals really don't have accidents. And for the people that said they needed some more information, here's your more info. He had just spoken out against Putin's Air Force, so that probably solved the problem for the 10% that said, I need more info. That's all you pretty much need. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that man got killed by the Russian government. Clearly, nobody dies of carbon monoxide poisoning if you're a general. I mean, if you're in that high up of a position, you don't die from silly things like carbon monoxide poisoning. So I have a feeling that was probably a deliberate assassination attempt. And so with that, hope that does address that well. And we're on to the next one.
And actually, I take it back. The Russian generals do sometimes cook, but when you let them cook, they cook up a loss. But anyways, moving on to our next question. It says, and our next one says, China wants to be friends with the United States of America, and they've offered panda bears in return. And what are your thoughts on this? 62% said pandas aren't gonna cut it. 18% said, are they fluffy though? 14% said it sounds like a good offer, and 6% said unsure. And to me, it doesn't matter how fluffy the panda bears are. We just gave back 3 of them because China demanded them back. And now they're offering to send them back, which is not exactly what you'd call giving them to us, because we had them and then we gave them back, and now they're going to let us have them again. The panda bears are sweet. They're nice creatures, but let's be real here. We're not trading panda bears for basically manipulating our foreign policy. I don't know if they think that's actually going to work. But pandas aren't going to cut it. I'm with the majority. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, have you ever tasted a panda before?
Huh?
Have you ever eaten a panda before?
No.
Well, we're about to.
Damn, okay.
But
all right.
Moving on from that stupid joke, to answer that question, that's a stupid trade. I mean, the pandas. I mean, we could go without having the pandas. They're kind of a little expensive to maintain. Why do we need them? You know, if you just want to see a panda, go online and type up panda. You know, there you go, right there. It's about as good as going to the zoo. So, I gotta be honest, I'm not really finding that to be a good enough extension of friendship. Why not, I don't know, you know, they stop trying to aggressively expand the Belt and Road program. Maybe that would be a better sign of friendship, but, you know, who knows? Anyways, I hope that does address that well, in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, to be honest, we don't need the pandas back because I believe when we had them, they weren't treated really properly. And to be honest with you, if I was a Chinese citizen and I saw my national animal getting abused in the United States, I'd be pissed off too, to be perfectly honest. You know, I don't side with China on hardly anything, but on that one, I would have to say they were probably justified in being pissed off. But anyways, moving to our last poll question, it says, do you think the mainstream news outlets give a positive spin to pro-Hamas and Palestinian propaganda? 66% said yes, they favor them, 19% said no, it's pretty balanced, and 15% said unsure. And on this one, I have to say that without a doubt, the mainstream news does favor pro-Hamas Palestinian propaganda. That seems to be their preference, and without getting into politics, I will say that politics pretty much defines who's going to go which direction on this one. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say very similar thing, except for the politics thing, which I'm not going to touch at all. But it seems as though most major news organizations support Palestine, or at least make the spin in their favor, instead of focusing on, you know, why Israel went to war in the first place. They like to make it sound like the Palestinians, or more so the Gazans, are victims, which is very hard to do. It's very, very hard, considering that they were the aggressors in this particular instance. I don't know that someone's about to bring up, what about the past 100 years? Well, we're not talking about the past 100 years, are we? No, we're not. We are talking about from October 7th to today. Who was the first one to run across the border and end up killing innocent civilians? Well, that was Hamas. So when Israel responds, which is a very fair thing to do, considering that around 2,400 people died that day, which is about the same. Well, actually, that is the exact same amount of people that ended up dying on 9/11. Just to put that into context, when you respond, you can't really make it sound like the people you're responding against are, ooh, boo-hoo, the poor victims, especially considering that Hamas is in Gaza. Yeah, and considering that Hamas is in Gaza, it's really hard to make that sound like it's a victim kind of thing, considering that they also took hostages. And what good group of people takes hostages? I mean, if that's what good people do nowadays, then America needs to go around the world and take some Iranian hostages, some North Korean hostages, some Chinese and Russian hostages, some Cuban hostages, and we just need to start torturing them and executing them here in the United States, because apparently that's what good intentioned people can do nowadays, and is completely understandable. So, you know, and of course, you know, the logic behind that statement is that obviously those aren't good people if they're taking hostages and torturing them and killing them, and their bodies are being found now. That's not really it's not really a good group of people. And also considering that they ran across the border and killed a whole bunch of innocent citizens, not really good people in that direction either. But for some reason, most news organizations support Palestine, or at least spin the story where it's in their favor, where they sound like, oh, boo-hoo, the poor people. Like, you can't go, oh, boo-hoo, the poor people, when the poor people they're talking about ended up killing innocent civilians before this came on to them. You know, it's kind of the push to the pull. But with that, I hope that does address that, at least in my opinion. And some people are gonna be like, man, you know, like that's kind of a take. And yeah, it is a take. I mean, you know, it's a hot take. I don't care if it's a hot take, because I don't stand behind people who lash out in anger and aggression and end up putting innocent people into harm or death, and then act like that's understandable. I never will. It's a completely non-understandable concept to me. And I don't get why people nowadays, so many people will watch their side do heinous acts. Even here in the United States domestically, this has happened on both sides. Someone will undertake a heinous act and end up killing innocent people in the process, and because they're on their side, they go, oh, well, that's completely understandable when they do it, but it's completely not understandable when other people do it. I'm not a hypocrite. I'm fair. If someone does something that's messed up and it's wrong, it's wrong. I don't care if I agreed with them or not. And this is something that you can clearly look at and go, that was a heinous act that Hamas pulled. What the Israelis are doing to them is what they get for what they did. That's what I gotta say. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and with that being said, that was our last poll question to address. That was the third and the last. So we are moving back into our Super Chat questions, and up first, we have a very generous $33 donation from Hal Rose, longtime channel viewer, and thank you very much, Hal, for that support. He says, Enforcer Matt, Slava Baba Yaga, and pick a question, please.
And thank you so much for the support, Hal Rose, and Slava Baba Yaga. And we will make sure to get a live chat in honor of Baba Yaga and you, Hal Rose. And thank you for the support and help with the channel to keep on running. And Matthew, what do we got?
All right, and the live chat question is going to go to 420, who says, whatever happened to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant crisis?
Oh, it just went away. It wasn't a crisis, apparently. They were able to get the groundwater pumps working. They were able to keep the cooling pond filled with water, and it's just continued on normally. So, you know, it's, yeah, it was kind of overblown. And I know that it was overblown here because a lot of y'all were tuning in to listen to that news, and that's thanks to Budanov. And, you know, and some people are going to be like, hey, he's trying his best, but hey, I've got some high standards, you know, and considering that he overblew that out of proportion massively for like months, and then it didn't turn into anything, I'm kind of like, I got to be honest with y'all, I'm kind of a little aggravated about that because, you know, I put a lot of my credibility on the line reporting that story, because we always try and report stories that we know are from credible sources and are as accurate as possible. And so when the intelligence officer of Ukraine sits there and tells pretty much a story, and we run with it, and then it's just completely false, you know, that kind of annoyed me greatly, because I put a lot of credit into what we report here, and, you know, that kind of just blasted it to pieces, at least our credibility with that story. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and thank you so much for the support, Hal, and sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and we're moving on to our next one, which goes to Drunky Monkey, who puts in a $20 donation. And huge shout out to you, Drunky Monkey, and thank you very much, as always, for that support. He says, there is a legitimate hyena in the Leaf Spring Shell vid at the end.
Really? Oh, he's talking about hyena. That laughing guy. You know that guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there is a hyena. It's one of the artillerists. And so with that, thank you so much for the support, Drunky Monkey. And hey, thank you so much for throwing in a super chat. We haven't seen you throw in a super chat for a little bit, and thank you for helping the channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who make this thing possible. And so thank you so much once again. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to that mom who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much to that mom for the support. And she says, have y'all listened to Mossam Hassan Youssef? If not, you should check him out. He's the son of the Hamas founder, now a vocal opponent, and changed my perspective on the situation by a lot. And I listened on the JHS. Oh, and call your family.
And thank you so much, that mom, and also everyone, remember to call your family. And I have not heard a lot from that guy in particular. I don't actually think I've heard of him before. I've heard about his dad, though, and his dad is pretty screwed up. You know, in case you all don't know, he advocates, this guy's dad does, he advocates for the women and children of Gaza to practically just get killed by any means, so that way it pisses off the men of Gaza enough that they'll take up arms and martyr themselves for Hamas's cause. So, you know, that was that's a little bit of a messed up take. You know, I don't think anyone could disagree with that. And also, very interesting here that he changed your mindset. I will look into him and try and see what he's got to say, to see what he is saying, for that matter. And so, thank you so much once again for support, and I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one while the bots are coming in strong. We've had a lot of bots tonight from really every kind of like direction we can have them from. And I gotta say, thank y'all for the support, because one thing that pisses off the bots is when we get support. That's something that pisses them off really more than anything, is when folks support the channel or we can do this as a job. And I think it's so funny because usually they're coming from other channels that have AdSense on and they're making like $1,500 a day. And then they come over here to us and they want to preach to us about how we shouldn't be making a living doing news reporting, which I always find just hilarious. And so remember that when you go over to another channel, they're probably making, I don't know, some of them are making, from what I was able to find out, like $200,000 a month. One of them is, and then most of them are making about $90,000 a month. What do we make? Nowhere close to that. I mean, and on top of that, there's two of us working here. So, you know, it's not all going to one person. We end up, you know, I end up having to pay it out to Matthew too, because, you know, we both work on this thing. So just remember that. But still, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one is going to go to Mark, the recidivistic astronomer, once again. He puts in a $30 donation. And thank you very much, Mark, once again, for the second super chat of the night. And with that being said, I've seen some trouble in the live chat. But anyways, Mark says, I'm just putting in a super chat to make you stay up longer because it's Friday. Muha, ha 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 ha. And he says, that Hamas founder's son is on Speak the Truth, and he hates his father.
And thank you so much, Mark, the recidivist astronomer. I don't know why I was stuttering through that so hard. But still, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And thank you for helping us to stay up a little bit later. Because while you're helping us to stay up a little bit later, you're also helping us to be able to do this as a job. And so thank you so much once again. And I will look at that channel and check that out and see what he's got to say. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one. But thank you for sharing that, Mark. And a lot of y'all are recommending that I listen to this guy, so I will try and take a listen. And so with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one.
And the next one is going to go to Tomer G, who puts in a 69.90 shackle. And thank you very much, Tomer, very much for that support. He says, please play the YouTube clip I pasted on chat. It's short and funny. And Tomer, sadly, the YouTube chat won't let you put a link in there, unfortunately. So if you want us to take a look, there's two options. You can either email it to us or you can send us a DM on Twitter, and that way we can take a look at it. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you so much for the support, Tomer. Sadly, that is true. We can't click on links in the chat because YouTube doesn't support the links, mostly to try and stop potential scammers. I want to make this clear. I'm not saying you're a scammer, but that's the logic that YouTube uses in not allowing people to post links in YouTube live chats or comment sections. But still, if you want to, you can DM it to us over Twitter. Probably the best way to do it, or you can send it over email and we'll be able to find it there. But still, thank you so much for the support. And if you can get that to us, we will watch it. Even if it's like the last thing on the stream, we will watch it. But thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and helping us to keep it running. And also, great to know we do have some viewers from Israel here. And I hope that you're safe right now, wherever you may be in Israel, and that things are going well. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Rick Hollander, who puts in a $20 donation, and thank you, Rick, as well, for that support. He says, I follow you both daily. I can't think of a better way to get informed, and greetings from Zeist in the Netherlands. And also, thank you very much for the kind words, and also greeting to you in the Netherlands.
Zeist in the Netherlands. Man, when you conduct a bank heist here, you say, hold up, this is a bank Zeist.
Well, it's Zeist, like Schultz in the Netherlands.
Schultz! Zeist! Oh, man. Do you know what I was thinking? Zeist! Oh, but anyways. Oh, wow. This is nice. I like it. It's like a little Lego village. I gotta tell y'all, anything in
the grass could use a little help, but go ahead.
Could use a little bit of help. A little sandy, but still nice. I gotta tell you, man, everything in Northern Europe looks like Lego houses. And I guess that's where they get the design for Lego houses from. It's from Northern Europe. It would make sense considering that Lego's a Danish company. By the way, I gotta show y'all this real quick. Have y'all been to the Lego site lately? I mean, I don't mean to like completely go off on the weirdest rabbit hole ever here, but have y'all seen what they have been making for Legos these days? Like, I haven't seen Lego in years. They have a Land Rover Classic Defender.
What?
They do. I was blown away by this. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
Damn, $240.
Yeah,
what, are they crazy?
It's insanely priced, but I mean, you got to admit though, that is pretty cool. It's a Lego Land Rover Defender.
I was about to say I want one, but $240, were they trying to rip people off?
Dude,
it's Lego.
Lego's gotten really expensive lately. I mean, it really has, but still, I mean, I was blown away by this. And also, this isn't the only thing. Let me go to like 18 plus because all the cool ones are like 18 plus. You all know that. But they have a Concorde. And it's got the droop
Man, that's
snoot.
$200, man. That's like cheap compared to the other things.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like even cheaper. But this thing actually has a working droop snoot. And not only that, they also built it to where it has operational landing gear and has a small little part that you can detach that shows the cabin. I just thought this was mind-blowing, what Lego's making these days. Because I remember when I was a kid growing up and we got Lego sets, then we were always getting like the 18 plus Lego sets. They were like so basic compared to what they're coming out with now. I mean, and this thing is huge, by the way. Like, this is the scale it is next to a person. This thing is like 3 feet long.
That's pretty cool. Have you seen the Lego Technic cars? Have you seen those?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen them.
Click on those real quick because they're pretty cool.
Let's see. Are they under the 18 plus? Oh yeah. By the way, they have a $700 Lego Titanic. That's like 4.5 feet long. It's 4.5 feet long though.
Oh dang, man! Go back up to the top. Well, actually, it might be on theme right there on the left. You can click Technic.
Technic. Where's the Technic? It's down in the T's, isn't it? I'm not seeing it. Let me just go up
here. There it is at the bottom. It was right there. Where? It was at the bottom.
Oh, right here.
There it is. Yep.
Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. Dude, that's really cool.
See. Scroll down a little bit.
Yamaha?
Oh, look, an MT-10.
I knew you
I used to ride on one of those. I actually used to ride one. The FZ-10, though, the American version. Oh, wow, look at that. $250 for the motorcycle.
Dude, look at
Man, Lego is crazy expensive.
Look at the crane. $700 for this thing. It's pretty wild.
And these are complicated to build. Like, these don't just take like a minute. They take days.
I gotta tell you, I mean, like, Lego is going to, like, get you now. If you try and get Lego items. Oh, dude, this is crazy. It's like, think about this. The price of this Lego motorcycle is the price of an entire pack, well, you know, like a pack I've gotten, of Bakelite magazines. Like, that's very expensive.
That is crazy expensive. Like, I'm all for Lego, but, you know, I'm not for ripping people off either. That's just too much.
Now, to tell you all this, back when we were kids, for Christmas, we usually got Lego sets. And usually I got the ones of, like, the big buildings. So I have the Lego Emporium, I have the Lego Movie Theater, the Fire Department, and the Town Hall. And back then, those were, like, the biggest sets that Lego made. And I think they were, like, $150 a piece. And that was considered very expensive at the time. Now it seems like every Lego set is more than $200. I mean, like, it's getting crazy, like, in terms of the pricing, but
now if you want to see something even cooler than that, peep the Twitter page. There's a custom Lego that was built for United 24 that is of Ukrainian like architecture. You got to see that one.
You know
it's
what?
Really cool.
I think we can find that by theme, can't we? Because
No, it's not official Lego. It's like a side thing type Lego. It's only like from United 24.
Let's see here. Let me go to our Twitter. Peter, the Twitter's here. So let me take that over here. I bet you Lego's loving the free advertising they're getting on the stream, but let's see here. Oh, here we go.
Music, music.
Oh, God! Oh, dude, thank you for mentioning that. I was completely zoned out right there. But look, it's the Motherland statue.
These are pretty cool. I think you have to win them in a raffle, though, so you can't just buy them. But that's pretty cool. I don't know if it's like an official partnership with Lego, or is it United 24 just taking some Lego and saying that they're Lego with Ukraine?
I think it's probably an official, like, joining right there, like a little collaborative, maybe. But getting back to the Lego website, just for a quick little additional rabbit hole, I think there was some, like, the Tranquil Garden thing's pretty neat, but there are some really big sets here that I was like, damn. Like, the typewriter's really cool, and it works. Like, you can actually push the little keys and the little thing pops up. It's pretty cool. But let's see here. There was something else that I saw.
Oh, that Apollo lander is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty neat. That is pretty cool.
I like.
And I like that little A-frame cabin, very 50s-ish. Dude, they are getting, like, insanely detailed with a lot of these sets. Like, at this point, I don't even feel like, well, this is the 18-plus stuff. So, obviously it's not for, like, kids. But, like, even back then, like, the 18-plus sets felt like they were more so geared towards kids. Nowadays, it feels like they make their stuff geared towards adults. Like, it's not really geared towards kids anymore. Like that Chevrolet.
Man, I'd loved any of this as a kid. Like even that Statue of Liberty or the landing module. I'd have taken either one.
Dude, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like kids these days, if their parents are able to afford Legos, if they're able to take out the mortgage, like they are well set. Like they've got some damn good sets that they can mess with and build. I mean, this stuff's impressive. But let's see. Like, dang, I'm just blown away. And look, they've got like endless like little like city buildings now. Like those used to be like they had like 3 or 4 of them at a time. Now they have like 90 of these things. Like it's crazy. Like I'm honestly blown away with what I'm seeing right here. I mean, like we're rabbit holing hard right now too. This has nothing to do with the war or Ukraine, but just sit back with me for a moment while we look through this and just go, damn, this is why everyone's broke.
Do you know Lego means play well in Danish?
I did know that. I did.
Man, Lego ought to hire me for a marketing rep. I'll change my opinion that they're overpriced if they hire me as marketing rep.
Oh, dude, this is the one set I wanted was the Lego Coliseum, but it was $550, so it was way out of the price range. But it's out of stock now. Man,
dang,
dude, that was a cool one. That thing was huge as well. I think it was like how many pieces was it? 9,036 pieces. It was an insane set, and it was huge. Really cool, but now it's out of stock, so I'll never be able to even think about it, like, because it's gone. But anyways, with that, hope y'all enjoyed that little rabbit hole, because, that was a crazy rabbit hole. Nevertheless, moving back to what we were originally talking about, which is Zeist in the Netherlands. I got to thank you so much for the support and being one of the viewers from the Netherlands, and I thank you so much for being up early in the morning, like at 3 or 4 in the morning for you, watching this show. And speaking of Zeist, you got Beast! I guess we're getting everything to rhyme with Zeist. And also, have y'all seen the heat that Mr. Beast has been getting for making the wells in Africa? I mean, like that, like the heat has been insane. Like, I'm not gonna lie, and it's really uncalled for. But anyways, with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Harvey the Drummer, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Harvey the Drummer, as always putting in that generous support, and we appreciate it very much. And he says, can I mail a check to your LLC's P.O. Box and bypass YouTube keeping 50% of your Super Chat donations?
I think you could, actually. Matthew, are we an LLC?
We are not an LLC.
I think, what the hell are we? I don't know what our official name is, like Enforcer Media something.
The technical term is a partnership.
Oh, yeah, it's a partnership. It's not an LLC, it's a partnership. But if you wanted to, I think you could, actually. You would have to get with us, though, over Twitter for us to give you the P.O. Box address. But if you wanted to, you could, and if you want to, just write a letter attached to it, because we would love to always thank everyone for support, even if it's not coming through a super chat on stream, and we would read off whatever you wanted to put in the letter. But thank you so much for trying to come up with a creative way to do that. And also, YouTube doesn't take 50, they only take 30, which that's still a lot. 30% is still a lot to take, but it's only 30. Twitch is the one that actually takes 50%. And they're the ones who everyone's like rebelling against, and they're like dying right now and imploding and everything. But still, with that, I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much for the support, Harvey the Drummer, and helping this channel to keep on running, and also trying to come up with a way to support the channel and help us keep it running, and making sure that YouTube doesn't get a dime. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running.
All right, and the next one goes to Just Lucky, I guess, who puts in a $20 donation, along with Jesus Cabrera, who also puts in a 20 as well. And big shout out to both of you for that support. And sadly, there are no comments to address on either one of them. But thank you both very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank the both of you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Y'all didn't throw in comments, but your support allows us to continue to make comments all the way through the night. If it wasn't for folks like you, it wouldn't be possible for us to be here right now. And so thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much to the both of y'all for helping this channel to exist and be on air. When we're on air, we get the news out to tens of thousands of people. So far, 24,000 of y'all have watched this stream. And y'all help us to do that every night through y'all support us, get the news out to tens of thousands of people. Not only that, you help us to spite our haters, because they absolutely hate to see that people enjoy the channel enough to support it and help us to keep this thing running, because they would rather see us all fair. Y'all help us to do a lot of things. It helps to achieve it every day with y'all support. And so thank y'all so much once again. And while y'all didn't throw in a comment, support does help us out and helps us to continue to stay in this category of news on YouTube and to keep on doing it. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Eternal Darkness, who puts in a 20 as well. And a huge shout out to you also for that support. And they said, did you see a Russian terrorist crying about our new David's Sling missile defense system? Also, I think the hybrid warfare with refugees against Finland is going to give USA a good DCA agreement.
And thank you for the support. And can you reread that one, Matthew?
They said, did you see the Russian terrorists crying about our new David's Sling missile defense system? Also, I think their hybrid warfare with refugees against Finland is giving USA a good DCA agreement.
And that last part I don't really know about. I'd have to declare ignorance on that. But the first part, I can say that I haven't seen them crying about it, and I think that that's a joint development program with Israel, because David Sling is a very Israeli name for a weapons system. But I bet you they probably are crying about it, because the Russians cry about anything, because we're already about 30 years ahead of them. So anything we're making is just making that gap even larger. But still, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Before we do, Matthew, I just saw Fighting Finn say, Enforcer wants a Lego M16. Oh, man. If I could have a Lego M16, that would be cool. But you know what would be even cooler? You know what would be even cooler than that? A Lego M249 saw. That would be cool. That would be neat. Maybe we can make that happen one day. Who knows? But still, with that, we're on to the next
one. Lego would never make a set with a gun. Like, I can tell you that right now. They would never do that officially.
No weapons? Dude, I remember back when they made the Royal Guard minifigures, which I loved. They actually gave them guns. And that was like a big thing for Lego, is to give anything a gun, but they gave them guns, and I was blown away. They were like little muskets, like brown musket kind of guns, but they were still freaking guns. And I was like, this is great. Because I actually had armed, like, little Lego minifigures. And, you know, when you're a kid and you're playing around, you want them to have guns because you want them to go in blasting. And so with that, I hope that's
those were the good old days. I remember sitting on the floor in our old, like, bonus room in our old house. We were sitting there on the carpet watching the old real BBC version of Top Gear and building the Lego sets around Christmas. That was like the good old days, I got to say.
Man, I remember I would sit down and I would crank those massive buildings out in literally a day. Like, I'd wake up that morning, unwrap the presents, and I'd sit there and I'd build that thing in one day. Like, it was like 4,000 pieces or something. And I'd sit there for 12 hours on the floor, just dedicated on getting that thing done. But I really love Legos. It's just they're so expensive now. Like, you can't actually can't actually do that. There's like better things to spend the money on, like trying to get guns so that way we can do gun reviews for all of y'all when the break comes around here in about a week or two. But with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Duncan VR, who puts in a $19 donation, and he made it real short tonight. And first off, thank you very much, Duncan, for the support. And he says, ba, 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 ba.
It's animal noises. Hey, thank you so much for the support, Duncan, and helping the channel to keep on running. And thank you for throwing in the animal noises. It wasn't a lot of them, but our streams are not complete without you throwing in the animal noises. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. And so thank you so much once again. And I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Ron Wolfson, who puts in a $13 donation and says thank you for covering Israel.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for enjoying us covering Israel. Of course, there's not a lot of people covering Israel, as many of y'all may be able to tell. Really, the only people who are covering it are the mainstream news companies, really, because they don't, Ukraine kind of got old for them, so they were more than happy to just jump ship and move on. And then nobody's covering it on YouTube, which I found to be so funny, because a lot of YouTube, like at this point, I'm kind of okay with just leveling with y'all and telling y'all like how I feel about other channels. Every channel loves to make themselves sound like a humanitarian when they're covering wars, and then you see how little they really care about people and how much they care about just getting views and AdSense when it came to a second war starting with tons of people getting killed in it, like it is right now in the Middle East. And they only covered it for a day, and once they saw that the viewership wasn't going to be as good as they were getting on Ukraine because they got that algorithm down, they just dropped it and went entirely back to Ukraine and never covered it again. And that told me, I don't know, maybe y'all don't see it because, we run a YouTube channel, so, we run all of everything in the background. We know how AdSense works, although we rarely ever use it. I sat there and saw that, and I was like, huh. That's interesting. The viewership was a little bit lower, didn't give them the same AdSense encouragement to do anything on it. So, who gives a damn about these people? I'm going back to Ukraine was like the mindset we saw on almost every YouTube channel. And I was absolutely blown away by that. I was completely shocked because I thought everyone was going to start doing what we're doing, which is trying to cover everything. But no, they saw the viewership was just going to be a little bit lower. So they decided, nah, I'm not going to make enough money to do that. I'm going back to Ukraine. And just covering that. So I was like, damn. I was like, that was messed up. But thank you so much for appreciating us covering it. We're really one of the few channels out there doing it. And we're one of the few channels that are actually taking the time to try and care about as many people as we can around the world, wherever they may be, whether it be Ukraine, Israel, East Asia. We try and cover everything. And so thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Ari Soini, who puts in a $12 donation. And thank you very much, Ari, for that support. They said, pizza slice, take a live chat question. Big thanks for everyone who supports the channel.
And thank you so much for getting us a pizza slice. And thank you for enjoying this channel and helping us to keep it running. It means a lot to us. And I've got to say, I'm greatly appreciative of everyone who enjoys the channel enough that helps it to keep running. And so thank you so much once again. And Matthew, did they want a live chat?
They did. They did.
All right, let's get it.
And the live chat question is going to go to Rob Eisman, longtime channel legend. And he says, any news on the massive base explosion? I couldn't find anything reliable. Excuse me.
From what we were able to find, the 631st Brigade was the one overseeing the base near Kotluban that had the massive explosion. From what we know, there's an estimated casualty figure of several hundred Russian soldiers, and it appears that the majority of the ammo dump had been destroyed in the explosion. That's all the information that we have at the moment, and not a lot of additional information has been coming out due to Russian censorship, but that's about the best information that we have to go off of right now. And so, with that, I hope that does address that well, and thank you so much once again for sponsoring that live chat question. And I see a lot of people in the live chat right now, before we move on, talking about the thing I touched on a little bit, which is how, certain people do certain things for AdSense. And that's one thing that I find very funny, just to talk about for a quick minute, because it's something that kind of scarred us with how people like tried to viciously attack us for how we've monetized our channel, but we know how their channels are monetized and we know what they're making, although, you know, no one else knows. And that's something that I've just found bizarre, is when people would come and say, oh, look, they get super chats and they have no other way that they monetize. Look at them. They're in it for the money alone. And then some of them have made videos that specifically talked about how much AdSense they made doing certain things and why it wasn't worth their time because they weren't making enough money. Like, I'm not even kidding. I'm not going to tell y'all the channel or that specific video, but y'all can go out there and comb through these channels, and you can find videos where they specifically say, I'm not covering certain things in certain ways because it doesn't make me enough money. That's never been a priority on this channel. Like, sometimes we, like, because we have no ads and we run entirely on Super Chat, sometimes we get very low Super Chat nights, and we don't sit there and go, you know what, we're not doing this anymore because we didn't get any Super Chats. We just go, well, we'll see you all tomorrow. And we never stop. And it's crazy to me how we've monetized our channel very little compared to others, and others do, but you don't get to publicly see any of the income they're making, so then they try and act like they're not making anything. And that's something that just annoys me so greatly, because very few times we did turn on the monetization, and on 2 separate videos when the monetization was on, we ended up getting the viewership that other channels covering this war get. And the amount of AdSense revenue that was made on those 2 videos was insane. And knowing that they're making that every single day, and then they try and act like they're like humanitarians that don't make a single cent and they're doing everything for charity, is insane to me. It's absolutely mind-blowing. But, you know, that's the YouTube world, and it's just weird to me. And, you know, anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to LSA Sergeant Figman, who puts in a $10 donation. And huge shout out to you, and thank you very much for that support. They said, I'm Israel Chai, and I've been here since day 7, and my family is wrapped up in both wars now. Can't catch a break, it seems, and my family thanks you from the bottom of our hearts for all that you do. Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much for enjoying the channel and helping us keep it running, and thank you for appreciating us covering them both. Honestly, it adds a lot to the workload because I have to go and do the same thing I do for Ukraine, but for Israel, and I have to dedicate the same amount of time I would entirely to Ukraine to 2 separate things. But I honestly feel like it's worth it because I feel like the news that's going on in Israel is something that a lot of people aren't talking about, and it's certainly deserving of extra time and attention being put towards it, especially on our news cycle. And so I got to thank you so much for enjoying this channel and enjoying the efforts and the coverage that we try and put out, because I feel like it's important news, especially with what's going on in the Middle East. And I got to be honest with y'all, I feel like our Middle East coverage is more important than our Ukraine coverage, although less people care and it gets less attention and viewership. And it's entirely because nobody's covering it. Like, nobody wants to cover this. One, because YouTube may hurt their AdSense. Because, you know, we can't hurt the money stream, you know, and I'm not saying that about us. I'm saying that about other channels. Can't hurt the money stream. So they don't cover it for that reason. And also, they don't get as much viewership. So then that incentivizes them to not cover it as well. I don't care. I'm not here to, you know, try and make a killing. And I'm also not here to try and, you know, get as many viewers as possible. I'm here to cover what I feel is important news for y'all. And I hope and I thank you so much for appreciating and thinking that it is good news to cover. And it's very nice to know that it has a special thing, going on for you, because you actually are connected to both wars through family. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have 2 more, actually 3 more super chats from Ari Soini. Each one is a $10 donation, and huge shout out to you, Ari, for that. That is very generous. And they said, when Poodler has a sleepover with his buddies, Kim, G, Ibrahim, and Mullah, do they have pillow fights and make prank calls and stay up late? Kiwi wife and Finn.
And thank you for support. They might. I'm not going to rule that out. Maybe they do. But still, I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you so much from the Kiwi wife and Finn for being here tonight and helping this channel to keep on running and asking the questions that really count. Do they have pillow fights? And my answer would probably be maybe. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one said, great stream as always, and love watching orcs being pacified. Here's a piece of slice. Kiwi wife and Finn.
And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running again, Ari. And thank you so much for the kind words as well, because your support is helping this channel to keep on running. And if it wasn't for you, it wouldn't be possible for us to be here. And so with that, we are on to the next. And wait a minute, hang on. Hold up, Matthew. Am I seeing that right? Is Oates Air here tonight?
He is. He said 4 more weeks as an NCO student, and he's getting promoted to senior airman. What about that?
Hey, look at that. Congratulations, Oates Air. And we haven't seen you in a minute. It's great to have you here. I hope that you've been having a good time in training, and I hope that things are going well, because that's great to see that you're back. It's been a while, but still, welcome back. And also, I hope that you get commissioned as an NCO soon once training's over. And everyone give a warm welcome back to Oates Air. He is a channel legend that has been missing for months because he's been in training, and he's just returned. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Ari Sweeney once again, who says Kiwi wife's asleep, but I'm sure she approved this donation. Finn.
And thank you so much for the support. And I hope she does approve the donation. Otherwise, I don't want you to get in trouble. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because it is folks like you who make this possible. And it's both Kiwi Wife and Finn who make it possible, Ari. And so thank you so much for the support. And thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Hoodoo, Texas, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Hoodoo, for that support. He says the interior of the D9R Doobie / teddy bear is pretty interesting. 2 crew, driver, and gunner / oiler pull up D9 Doobie and teddy bear interior model on search if anyone's interested.
Let's see here. I found the D9 Doobie page.
Excuse me.
But do we have an interior view? Let me see. D9 Doobie interior. I'm not finding any pictures of the interior, but I was able to find some pictures of the outside. It's a cool vehicle. There it is, the Doobie. Like, zoink scoop, I think we're getting ash.
Doobie doobie doo, where are you?
Dude, I like the machine gun on top. It's a construction site. Get out of the way. But this is
what would happen if the construction unions could get their way. They'd have these roaming around.
Man, this is what happens when the teams just get a little angry that they go around with this thing. But anyways, gotta say that it's a really cool vehicle. Sadly, I can't find an interior picture of it. I wasn't able to. But thank you so much once again for support, Hoodoo, and sharing your affection for the Doobie with us again. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to talk about that Doobie. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Butchie777, who puts in a 10 and says, for pissing the bots off fund. And also, got up late this morning, but I'll catch up later in the workshop. Please take a question. You guys rock.
Shoyo! And thank you so much for the support, helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for also saying that you're going to watch this a little later. I appreciate that. And also, one more thing. Reread the first part, Matthew.
For the pissing off the bots fund.
I like that part. And thank you for the support and pissing off the bots, because I'm sure someone is about to come in here and go, hey, you shouldn't be making a living doing a job, you asshole. Only I can do that. So someone's going to do that thanks to your support.
And then I'm going to hit him with that mom joke.
Man, at this point, they'll come in and say that, and then Matthew will say something like, yo, mama, and then ban him. And I'm like, man, this is classy. But still, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for helping us despite the bots. Because if it wasn't for you, what bots would we spite? We wouldn't have any bots. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Margaret Hemsley, who puts in a 7. And thank you very much, Margaret, for that support. She says, for you, because I can't watch other news channels anymore. Nothing compares to you.
Hey, and thank you for the high praise, Margaret, and thank you for the support, too. Thank you for saying that no other channel compares. We try our best, and yes, it is a pissing contest at this point. I'm not, let's see, how do I put this a good way?
It's not a pissing contest.
It's not a pissing contest. And then everyone is in a pissing contest, and they just, are passively aggressively doing it, and they're two-faced. But
I shouldn't have held back in the day. I held back because I was trying to be a nice guy, and I shouldn't have held back. I should have just said what I thought.
Nah, we shouldn't have, because I was also, trying as well to then immediately get shit on, literally within like half a day for our format, with the guests on, and it's like, Oh, well, you're welcome, for getting plugged on the show, but anyways, I gotta be honest, it is a pissing contest for us to try and, be better than most other channels. And that's something arbitrary. That's up to y'all whether we're better or not. Like you, Margaret, you find that we're better. But not really big fans anymore of encouraging people to go to other channels. I encourage y'all to have other sources, and I'd highly encourage that Twitter's a good place to find sources. We've found some amazing sources on Twitter for news, but not really a big fan of other YouTube channels anymore, really. Like most, if not all of them. But not all of them. There's a few exceptions, but we'll leave that up to y'all's imagination. But still, with that, thank you so much for the support, Margaret, and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who make it possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to First Person View News, who puts in a 5 and says, Enforcer Matt, LSA from Huntsville, and hello, fellow Alabamian. And also, you live in Huntsville, where the Fed money flows freely, and Lockheed Martin and the whole defense industry loves to hang out and recruit their engineers. But hello from Huntsville. It's a nice place. Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you so much for the support, and hello to Huntsville, Alabama, the largest city in the state now. And I hope you're having fun up there, and I hope you enjoy the Fed money, because the Fed money is good money. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well, and thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Boy. Oh boy. Thank you very much for that super chat and support. And he says Trident stickers in the merch store.
And Trident stickers in the merch store? Oh man, might have to look into that a little. We don't do Ukrainian imagery on our merch because we kind of feel like that's war profiteering for the most part, trying to, benefit off of their imagery. So we usually come up with our own stuff. But still, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
And the next one goes to Green-Eyed Girl, who says, Cult of Matt, and throws in a $5 super chat. And thank you very much for your contribution toward the Cult of Matt. We shall put that toward advertising. And thank you very much, Green-Eyed Girl, for the support. And the Cult of Matt does thank you. And the next one goes to CK Bold, who puts in a 5 and says, take a live chat question. And we shall grab a live chat question. It's not may, it's shall, meaning we shall be compulsed to do so, according to the legal terminology. And the live chat question goes to Sammy J, who says, do you think Putin plans to invade Africa?
Nah, not really. They will try and exert some influence over certain parts of Africa, but they'll never truly invade and try and make it a part of the Russian Federation or anything like that. They'll probably do like the soft exertions of influence like they're doing in Sudan right now. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and thank you so much for sponsoring that question. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Cameron Kirk, who puts in a 5 and says, many kids born from that get out of jail with a kid card probably end up orphans, causing Russia to spend money they don't have since Putin needs his palaces.
You know what? That's actually a good way to look at it. I think, well, I wouldn't encourage anything like that because that sounds really deplorable to get people out of prison for having a kid, but that will probably be the end result of a policy like that. It will not end up well. I can promise you that. And thank you so much once again for support. And also, Matthew, really quickly, I saw someone say, don't start all this YouTube BS again. No, I'm not starting it. I'm not starting nothing. But, when people bring up certain things, I'm not one to try and hold back. I'm going to be honest and just tell y'all what the real take is. Don't take that as me starting a beef. It's really just how things went, and that at this point, that's almost 2 months old. But, people bring things up every once in a while that touch on that, and I'm not going to sit there and censor myself or try and censor what they said so that way, people don't get their feelings hurt. I mean, like, hell, they had no problem. Folks had no problem hopping out of their way to say things that are really hypocritical, and I'm not going to, pansy around and say that it wasn't hypocritical or they had a point. None of them had a point. It didn't make any sense. And, not starting anything, but I'm also not going to, try and hide my actual opinion or take on what happened because it was stupid, from start to finish entirely. But anyways, with that,
where are we in the process of this beef? Are you tenderizing, marinating, searing, sauteing, baking, cooking, grilling?
Oh no,
where are we?
The beef is over. But if people want to bring up something about it, I'm not going to, skirt around it. If someone says, "Hey, I don't like I don't like what other YouTube channels are. I'll be fine with that. It's like, yeah.
So sous vide.
Yeah, kind of like sous vide. That's probably the best way to explain it. But with that, we are on to the next one. And also, by the way, I would never expect. I don't care what happens. Don't ever expect me, when people bring something up, to censor myself just because, to just not step on people's toes, because they don't like my take or my opinion on something. That's not how I work. I don't live in fear of other people. That's not what I do, because if that was the case, we would have ended up hiding once we got doxxed. And it's been months since we've been doxxed. We're still here. We're still alive. And, and we still have the invitation open. If anyone wants to follow through on the doxing and come down here and harass us in person, by all means, go ahead. They'll end up regretting it. But, I'm not gonna censor myself because, people don't like what happened. It happened. Like, it's what happened. It's the facts. And I'm not gonna go and sit there and be like, oh, I can't talk about that. No, if someone wants to talk about it, I'll talk about it to them. If I didn't, I would be a politician. I would be a full-on politician, just BSing my way through this thing and lying into all of y'all's faces or giving y'all double speak, so that way we didn't, piss someone off. I'm not into that at all. But as far as I know, the beef is over. There's still people harassing us. There's still people doxing us. And there's still people brigading us, especially on Twitter. It seems like that activity is the strongest on Twitter. But we're just doing our thing at this point, and we're just moving on the best we can. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Ari Soini, who puts in a 5 and says, for the suing fund, Kiwi wife and Finn.
Hey, that's it. Thank you so much for the suing fund, because we are going to sue everyone, and no one will be safe. But still,
one lawsuit, two lawsuits,
Dude, someone breeds. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Here you go. A little bit of assault right there. There you go. But anyways, thank you so much once again for support. And one day we will. But still, with that, I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much once again for support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Eric Kress, who puts in a 5, and he says, here's towards Enforcer Lego set he want. It's $12.99 on eBay.
$12.99 for the Coliseum set? No, I wouldn't. No. Nah, that ain't happening. I thank you for the support, but I don't think I'd ever get that set for that price. But still, thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and helping us to keep it running, because it is folks like you who helped to make this thing possible. And I saw someone in the live chat, Matthew, right there mentioning, hey, you should talk to someone else who got doxxed. What's the use? I mean, we're never going to stop being doxxed. That's one thing I've seen that's very clear, is that there are very sick people online who get a lot of pleasure out of thinking that they're like wrecking us emotionally by sharing pictures of our house around on the internet. And at this point, like, it's sick, it's deplorable, and in every other instance, in every other community on YouTube, that would have been denounced to hell and back, but when it happened to us, everyone just brushed it under the rug and then condemned us for responding to it. So at this point, I'm like, I don't really care. If people want to dox us, they can, and apparently every other community operates off of what seems to be sane rules, but ours doesn't really operate off of rules like that. But with that,
but you notice though that everybody learned their lesson because everybody stopped. Well, let me try to keep it PG. The crap hit the fan, and everyone decided it's probably best to back off.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, it's still going on to a good point. There wasn't a moment where everyone in the community said, wow, that's messed up. And it happens in every other community. Whenever anyone's been doxxed, and I think 3 major YouTubers have been doxxed over this past month, every community and niche they're in, everyone in their community will go, that's messed up and wrong to dox someone. That is just wrong. And whatever happens to that person happens. But then we get doxxed in the Ukraine war world community, and then everyone just goes, oh, you know what? You should have just dealt with that, because that's perfectly acceptable to dox people. In fact, you're wrong for responding to it in any way. And it's like, it's the complete opposite of how the rest of YouTube works. It just blew me away. Like, it really did, because that was not what I was thinking. That was not how I thought people would respond to hearing that someone got doxxed, because the normal way people respond on YouTube is, that's messed up. And that's a deplorable thing to do, to try and threaten someone's life in real life over a disagreement or a beef on the internet. But that's not how the Ukraine war world community works. But
I just
anyways,
responded the only way I knew how. I came out swinging, and it appeared that it worked pretty good because everybody stopped for the most part. There's obviously a few goons here and there that want to run around saying stuff, but they're pretty much minor compared to what it used to be.
yeah, true. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Slava Free Something, who puts in a 5 and says, I remember when I thought Ukraine was full of, he says, neo-Nazis, and it's odd to look back and think how it recently turned out. Critical thinking is vital.
And I gotta thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, I'm glad to hear, Slava Free Something, that you did change your mindset on what happened with the Ukrainians and who the Ukrainians are, because they are pretty great people and pretty hard fighting and valorous and honorable people. And it's great to know that you did change your mind. So with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Margaret Hemsley, who puts in a 4 and says, for the cult of Matt Bot Bopper, and get a big one. And for the throat lozenges for Andrew, some lubricating.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for getting us some lozenges. I really need some right now. My throat's really messed up for some reason. But still, thank you so much. And with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and with that, we're moving into our live chat questions.
What?
And obviously, up first, we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight, we had a whole roster. Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Kevin J., and Rumpelstiltskin. They said the Morse code says, one day when this war is over, I will get some sleep. Long live the LSA.
And that's the sound of money. And I was so tired when I was writing that Morse code message, I just wrote what I was thinking. I was like, man, when this war's over, I'm getting some sleep. And so with that, thank you all so much for deciphering that Morse code message. Y'all been getting that correct almost continuously for 632 days. And hopefully, if the war goes on for another 632 days, y'all will still be getting the Morse code messages right daily. And with that, we are now moving on into the final 3 questions of the night due to us going massively overtime. But Confarelli just threw in a $25 super chat. And I hope really quickly, I hope you're having a fun time on the road, because I know that you've been on the road all night. So I hope that things are going well. I hope you're safe on the rest of your road trip. You probably have a few hours left. And also, Confarelli said, thank you for doing what you do and for keeping me awake. Have a cup of coffee on .me. And I got to thank you so much for the support, Confarelli. And I got to thank you for enjoying what we do. Of course, I've actually met Confarelli in person, and Confarelli is a really cool guy, and he's got a freaking amazing mustache. Like, he's got a mustache like Joseph Stalin. I was absolutely blown away by it. And I got to say,
another fellow Alabamian, let's go!
Let's go! And also, thank you so much for enjoying what we do, Confarelli, and giving us a cup of coffee, so that way we can stay awake to keep these shows running. And I hope you continue to stay awake while you're on the road, and you have a safe trip up there. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're now moving back into the live chats. We're going to be answering 3 of them, and then we're going to be rounding out tonight's stream. And so we're on to the third to last one of the night.
And this one goes to my boy, Bo Nielsen, who says, come on. Actually, I think he's playing right into the thing. He says, come on, man. A Russian winter offensive against Finland? What can go wrong?
What can go wrong, Jack? I was on the front lines with Samoa back in the day. What happened? We graced the Russian. But still, thank you so much for support. It's not support, it's a live chat. But thank you for throwing that in, and you're absolutely right. What could go wrong? Flashbacks of the Winter War. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Mark Hooper, who says, do you think this new front opened up by Ukraine can carry on when the rain really comes down?
Yeah, kind of for now, because it's mostly infantry based, and that's light enough weight that they can kind of travel over the Rasputitsa in the mud if need be. Once armored operations begin, if we're looking at this whole situation correctly, it'll probably be December, and the ground will be dry enough that armored operations will be suitable. So with that, I hope that does address that well, at least for the Kherson area alone. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who was lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is the Hot Tub Channel. Apparently, hot tub enthusiasts. And thank you very much for the question. They said, any idea what the standard body armor rating for Ukrainian troops are wearing? Is it level 4?
I don't know. I've got to be honest. I don't think it's level 4 because level 4 plates are incredibly heavy. Even the smaller ones are around like, I think it's like, I'm trying to think, it's like 30 pounds for a 10 by 12 plate on the front and rear of the rig. So I have a feeling that it's probably not full body armor at level 4. It's probably like level 3 plus would be my guess. That's probably the highest it gets because level 3 plus is a lot lighter than level 4 plates are. And also level 4 is getting a little bit impractical, at least to equip an entire army with, because level 4 plates can go up against 30-06 armor piercing, and it's going to be very rare on a modern battlefield that you come up against that kind of armor piercing capability. You're most likely going to be dealing with like 5.45 or 5.56 armor piercing rounds, and level 3 plus can usually stop those rounds, at least a few of them. So probably, if I had to take a guess, because I don't know the exact body armor that's usually being issued to Ukrainian forces, I have a feeling that they're probably using like a level 3 plus or something along those lines. I see that George Tincher said that they're likely using NATO level 4 ceramics. I don't know, because I will tell you all this. One of the things that we were actually going to review is body armor. So we did end up getting a set of level 4 plates. I don't think mine are ceramic, though. But they're heavy as hell. They're like 30 pounds. It's ridiculous. And we were actually going to talk about that when we got around to making a video on it, is how crazy heavy the level 4 plates are, even being the smallest ones we could find. They're 10 by 12s. But with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion, because I have a feeling it's probably level 3 plus. Level 4 would probably be a little too heavy and also possibly impractical. But I don't know about ceramics. Maybe ceramics are light enough that it is practical. But with that, it is the end of tonight's stream. I gotta thank y'all all so much once again for watching. At the peak tonight, there were 5.7 thousand of y'all on live, and 26,000 of y'all have watched this stream before it's ended. We are entirely honored to know that every single night we are able to provide the news to so many of y'all on what's been going on in Ukraine and Israel around the world. Most of the time, we're really the only ones covering some of these stories, and I appreciate y'all so much coming here and enjoying our news and our coverage. If you did, and you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It does help this channel to be promoted to others, and it helps us to continue on getting out what we do. Our Sunday fundraisers, our daily streams, and everything in between. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, God bless Israel, God bless the United States, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And thank you all for another great stream. We'll see you all tomorrow night. Thank you all. Slava Ukraine, Slava Israel, and oh man, I really want a hot dog right now. Good night.
The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Русский военный корабль. Предлагаю сложить оружие и сдаться. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй.